right near you. Yep.
Okay. All right, so let's call this meeting to order, 6:15, December 2, 2025. Biscayne Park, regular agenda, a regular commission meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for us? Is it YouTube? Can you mute the speaker so we can try to get to the? All right, the camera's up. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for us? Here.
Vice Mayor Samara.
Here.
Commissioner Ansler.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Huntington.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. So thanks everyone for being patient with us, boys. Thanks very much. You've done very well so far. So this evening we have Cub Scout Pack 305, our Tiger Scouts, here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to earn themselves their citizenship belt loop. So, boys, what do we do first? Ask everyone to what? So let's all stand up, okay? Take our hats off. Where's the flag, boys?
We turn and face the flag. Hand over your heart.
Nice and loud, okay?
Say the flag together. Ready?
All right, boys, who's gonna start?
Start it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done.
Good job, boys. We're dismissed. Yes. All right, boys. Well done. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. Mr. Denlater,
Thank you.
are these yours?
Somebody saying goodbye?
Nice. Bring this home later. Man, are these yours?
Oh, I know who they belong to.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. I think we're ready. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll move on to our additions, deletions, and withdrawals. I'll go ahead and ask the commission at this time if there are any.
Yeah, I have,
Agenda.
I just have one, to have a discussion on 9B. I approve of the contract as I talked to the, city manager about it. I just want for transparency that the residents know what the contract is all about with the new chief. So I'm in support of it, but I just think we should have a discussion on it. The, 9B, the hiring of the chief of police.
9B?
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So also on, I would like to move 9D off consent. We have some discussion. We need to provide you some additional information that we've obtained. And also 10A, the second reading of the construction on federal holidays. If we could defer that to the January meeting to allow the code compliance board an opportunity to weigh in on it and add their comments on that ordinance.
Okay. So that's 9D, Delta, and 10A, correct? Well, 9D removing from consent and 10A we're deferring.
Yes.
Got it, okay. Any, Commissioner, I know you had a couple of items.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First, so let me start with the agenda that we have. I'm going to pull from the consent agenda. A, B, C, D, and J.
That's all consent, right?
Yes,
A, B, C, D, J.
yes. You have several in the middle. They're going to pass.
Great.
And then I have two items that I wasn't told I presented late, which I didn't, that I want to be included in the agenda. I'm hoping you all have read and take the opportunity to know what this is about.
The discussion item?
Yes.
Okay.
So our adopted agenda procedures, I believe is Resolution 2025-48, requires submissions from the commission 10 days before the meeting date. I submitted my items on November 21st, close to midnight, which meets the 10-day rule, actually a day prior. The village manager's decision not to include it is inconsistent with these procedures, particularly for an item involving a charter responsibility of the commission, like hiring a village attorney, which is one of the items that I have introduced. So I'm asking the commission to allow these items to be placed at the end of the agenda as new items.
New business?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any issue with it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to pull item 9F from consent agenda.
9F?
Yes.
Okay, so so let me just back up 1 second. The additional discussion items that Commissioner Amser has asked us to consider this evening, is there any objection to adding them to new business?
And sorry about that. I'm going to include only one of the two items. I'm going to move the sunshine item for the January meeting.
Okay.
I'm going to just include the attorney discussion.
Got it. Okay, so it's the one discussion item. Is any objection from the commission? Hearing none. Okay. So we'll add the attorney one to new business. And so far, well, let me just wrap this up first. Art, anything? Okay. So I have, as for the amended agenda, I have pulling from consent 9 A, B, C, D, F, and J, and then deferring 10A, and then adding the discussion item we just discussed. So I think that's everything. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as it's been amended?
Motion to approve.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. amended agenda has been approved. So let's move on to our presentations, which is our lobbyist, Mr. Caserta, who I believe is on by Zoom.
If I can be given 1 second, I've been trying to connect to the Zoom unsuccessfully.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, David. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm going to do my best here. I'm at an airport getting ready to catch a flight. But tonight, our representative Joseph and Senator Jones were supposed to be with us, but they had pre-scheduled events. But they would like to try to come in person maybe in January, prior to session if they can. But I'll try to just go through a quick scenario of what you all probably have been hearing are going to be the bigger items for cities this session, which is the property tax exemptions that were proposed, actually initiated by the governor, proposed by the House, and being discussed in the House and Senate. So is it okay for me to move forward here?
Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, as you all know, every year, the cities and counties always get bombarded with, mandates and bills trying to take the power away from each. And we do our best to work with the Florida Association of Counties and the Florida League of Cities and ourselves and some of the other consultants to, water down a lot of the stuff or get rid of them or do whatever we can to protect the communities. And we've done a pretty good job over the years. This year, the big issue is obviously going to be the property tax proposals. As you know, I poured out probably a month ago or so, just outlining the 8 property tax bills that have been filed by the House, and that was a result of, as I sent before that they were getting together to do the property tax meetings. They set up a committee. At the time, Vicki Lopez was heading up, chairing that, and basically they went ahead and met over a period of time over the summer and came up with these 8. They are House Bill 201, which is a full elimination of the non-school property tax homestead, which is obviously a full elimination, which I'll talk about in a minute, because today they had meetings in the House to run these property tax proposals through the process, and many people got up and gave the pros and cons, and I'll try to just quickly go through those in a minute. But that's the first one. Second, we got House Bill or HRJ 203, which is a phase out elimination of the non-school property taxes. Then you got HB 205, which is the elimination of non-school property tax for homesteads for persons age 65 or older. And then you've got 207, which is the assessed home value homestead exemption. It's proposed to add homestead exemption for levies other than schools equal to 25% of the remaining assessed value after applying the existing exemptions. And many of these will prohibit the counties and municipalities from defunding or reducing funding from law enforcement. So, they try to say you're not going to be able to reduce funding, but the thing is, it takes money, and the tax base is what we all rely on. So the other 4 are the House Bill 209, which is the proposed amendment to increase by 100,000 the exemption for homestead property for all ad valorem other than school district levies for properties that have full property insurance. And today that was being discussed as well. And a lot of the folks were saying, well, why are we forcing people to get insurance and protecting the insurance companies? We're trying to reduce insurance for people because that has been an issue for years now. Then you've got HB 211, the Save Our Homes property tax benefit, basically to increase the maximum value of the accrued Save Our Homes benefit, which may be transferred to a new homestead. And then HRJ 213, modification of the limitations on property assessment. That's to modify both homestead and non-homestead property. And once again, prohibits the counties and municipalities from reducing total funding to law enforcement. And finally, 215 revises our home's portability benefit to married persons establishing a joint homestead. So allowing the joint homestead in this case, and it prohibits an increase in the prior year's adopted millage rate from going into effect unless approved by a vote of the people. So as you can see there, what has happened, folks met, not a lot of times. This is a really, really important issue. So I'm not sure how much data has been produced, but the counties and the cities have been doing their best to try to put numbers together. And it based on these different proposals, each having different impacts, it is a substantial impact. And today in the meetings, several of them were passed, but were discussed. And some of the things that were being talked about, specifically like on the Save Our Homes issue, is that people. There's so many issues. The legislators are saying, well, we want to just let the people decide. And it's one of the things where, if you let the people decide, hey, free lunches, free tuition, free whatever, yeah, we're going to do that. But they really don't know the ramifications. They don't know the components. So it's going to be too late after they vote for it, because then it'll be up to the legislature to set the guidelines for that. So that's why this could be a potentially dangerous situation that the entire state could be in, many of the communities. The other thing, which I thought was interesting, was, people, when they live in cities, they choose to live in cities because there's better services in most cases. And so when this hits, all of a sudden, a lot of these services are going to be reduced. What happens there? They're talking about $18 billion of impact. They're talking about 411 municipalities will be impacted. Many of them might go bankrupt on some of this because of the unknowns. And it is my understanding that most of the cities and whatever, about upper 70s of the property tax are used for revenue. So vital services, roads, emergency services, law enforcement. So all of these are going to have an impact. And even though they say that the sales tax might, is going to make up the difference, they still, I don't think, have gotten or come up with a number of what needs to happen there to cover any differences. And as you all know, sales tax fluctuates, so you can't, not really reliable. One of the thought processes from folks, and once again, the Florida League of Cities, the Florida Association of Counties, and many others opposed every one of these. One of the things that was brought up was the next year, the Constitutional Tax Budget Commission meets on the constitutional amendments. And they thought that this would be a great, item to have that commission discuss over a period of time, so that we have good, solid data and input from the communities, from the counties, from the cities on the numbers and the impact, so that whatever proposals made, it's going to be something that's achievable. And so that was something that I thought was an interesting idea that a couple folks came up with. You're talking about, depending on the different levels of the proposals, each have different, ranging from $4 billion to, like I said, $18 billion in impact. Lost services, recurring dollars will be lost. There were a couple of folks that said all of this occurring and just maybe a $10 saving to the residents. I don't know how accurate that number is, but it seems that the proponents of it think that there's about a $3,500 benefit to each resident. But still, is that worth the potential of, what's going to happen to property value, what's going to happen to services, what's going to happen to the law enforcement, firefighters, the ability to keep the community clean, keep the parks open for the elderly and for the kids. So there is a lot going on right now. And today, obviously they went through the House. The Senate hasn't really discussed anything. They've been probably talking with the governor. I don't think the governor's come up with any proposals yet. So in the end, I'm not sure exactly if this moves forward or whether this is just a game of throwing this out there and having discussions, because this is the same legislature that we had last year, and last year we went into 3 overtimes. So I'm sure there's going to, be some issues still this year. And the beginning with this. So I know I run through quickly, but once again, because it's still a lot of unknown and still a little early yet, I did give you some of the conversations that were had today in the meetings, and some of the folks, the counties even said that what they might have to do is, if the voters vote for this, or before the voters vote for this, reduce their budgets as if it's already happening, and then reduce the services so that they'll get an idea of what is really going to happen before they vote on it, which I thought was kind of interesting as well. Let's see. I think I've hit a lot of the key points that were made today, with the pros and cons of these 8 bills that are coming across the table. And obviously, the big factors are, do we have enough information for a voter who comes out and really doesn't do their homework to say, hey, yeah, let's put this one and this one and this one. And then before you know it, a few years down the road, they're sitting going, well, wait, where's my services? Why are the garbage is getting picked up and all that? And then you've got to explain that, oh, the legislature from so many years ago did that. But anyway, this is something that needs to have some major dialogue. I think that both houses need to really come together and make sure this is something they really want to do and that they've done their homework on it. And then obviously you have some of the other bills from last year. I know Commissioner Amzur, you were interested in the sovereign immunity. That's up again. House has got the same proposal. They want to increase to 501 million, which obviously impacts counties and cities drastically, in the events of lawsuits. But we've always fought that, and the Senate has never really had a big palate for it. So that might be the case this year again. But that, in a nutshell, is what's been happening up in Tallahassee.
Well, David, thank you for the substantive update on what's going on up there. Would you mind just very quickly, I don't want to, I want to give the commission an opportunity if they have a question for you, but I do want to keep us moving. Could you very briefly touch upon the municipal legislative priorities with respect to appropriations, because we're coming up on that?
Sure. Based on what I've been given, I've had conversations with the manager. The 2 proposals that are up this year are, one, a study for septic to sewer, which obviously a lot of the communities have been moving forward with. I think a couple of the other neighborings have done it in the past year. And so that is going to be a $150,000 request. And there's also something that I think my understanding is very important to the council is the parks equipment, playground equipment for 150. And we have some very strong sponsors on both of those. We have so we believe that we'll when whoever comes up this year, we'll be able to get in front of the House and Senate and talk about both of these projects, and hopefully we'll have another successful year like we did last year.
Thanks, David. And just, I know I touched upon this, I think at the November meeting when we started talking about the session being earlier this year.
Yes.
That the tentative dates that we're looking at right now to plan to be up there, well, you and I discussed about the dates to be up there. And just, it was January 11 to January 14 with a couple of days that we were looking at.
Yeah, I would say the 3rd week of January, because session starts, I think, I want to say, is it the 12th? Let me just make sure I have that number correct. Hold on one second. Yeah, it's the 13th is when session starts. So I would probably look at the week of the 19th or 26th.
Okay. Well, the 19th is well, I don't want to get into too much back and forth on scheduling. The 19th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Well, no, I meant that week, like the 20th, 21st, or the
Got it.
21st. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. All right, so either the back half of that week, or the following week, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, David, I very much appreciate the update. I'd like to give the commission an opportunity if they'd like to ask
Sure.
any questions of you.
Sure.
Passengers.
Are there any questions for David while we have him?
I don't have any.
I was just going to ask if there's anything you need from us in the midst of all discussions that are happening regarding the, the tax law that's being reviewed. Is there anything we need to do from our perspective, which is leave you alone and Jonathan to go at it? What is needed
So-
from us? And I'm thinking also in terms of all these numbers that are materializing, what the impact is. You can imagine for us what it could be.
Well,
knowing
that's the other thing. You bring up a good point, Commissioner. The other thing is the communities that just rely on this. They don't have a commercial tax base and of anything like that. They're going to get hit harder because, then all of that revenue is potentially tapped into. And so these are the kinds of things that, and here's the good thing with the Florida League and the Florida Association of Counties, they're wrapped around this. They get information from us. They whenever they need, folks, then I get to you and say, hey, you guys, you need to write, some letters on this issue. But right now they're in that dialogue stage, still showing them the numbers and saying, this can't be real. You can't be really doing this, So, and like I said, it's to a point where the Senate really hasn't done anything. It's just the House that's been moving this because they're the ones that created that special commission. And once again, the governor, I don't think has come up with any proposals yet either. So,
And so to that point, David, nothing in terms of numbers. You need like no scenario for us to show what any of this bill would look like for the village to make a point.
well, if you're able to put numbers together, I'm surprised. I would think that the Florida League has already reached out to a lot of folks. I'm not sure. I'd have to defer to the manager on that. But if not, and you certainly have the numbers, based on what their proposals are on each proposal, it would be nice to know, and the Florida League should have that information because they'll compile all of that. And I think they might have done their homework too already on a lot of that because they've made some really good presentations and some good arguments.
Yeah.
So I can actually answer that.
Yeah.
We recently, actually yesterday, received a letter from Mayor Cava. She was asking the League of Cities to put together a countywide mayor's meeting on December 15th. I've already put it in my calendar to be there to give kind of an initial presentation of how these significant revisions of the property tax would impact us. And I had this discussion at the District 4 mayor's meeting with Commissioner Steinberg, where I said it would completely devastate us. It does. I don't know it needs to be. I don't even know that we need numbers. I think I can just say it would completely devastate.
And it would be like 90% of the entire.
It would.
unit,
We would
so-
cease to be a municipality. Yeah.
So yeah, that was my question. If
Yep.
numbers help to make the point that for us is devastating, I mean, maybe that helped, but I'm happy to hear that's already in the works. David, do you provide any in writing of what you just said? I didn't take notes of everything you said. I just did the basic.
yeah,
Or
what I-
at some point provide back like a report and written report so we can keep
Yeah.
and track.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll give a little written report of a lot of what I said. The first part of that you have, I think I sent to you about 4 weeks ago or so, which is the different proposals that you could actually look at, the bills, the analysis. But I'll send sort of some of the arguments that have been made and the efforts that are being made to address this. I'll certainly put a report together for you on that. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for David? No? All right, David, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you logging in while you're sitting at the airport and making time for us. So we appreciate it, and we'll be in touch with respect to the property tax revisions and as well as planning for the session in January.
Always enjoy working with you guys, with all of you. And you should let me know whatever you need, and I will hopefully see you soon.
Very good. David, thanks so much. Have a safe flight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our presentation. So let's move on to our next item, which is public comment. We will start with our public comment here in the log cabin. We'll move on to Zoom. For both in person and on Zoom, please remember that public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and please provide us with your name and address. So we'll start here.
Bob Anderson, 11905 Northeast 11th Place. Um, what I understand is something new is going to be added to the agenda. I think the residents here ought to get a copy of it. Maybe might want to make a comment, public comment. We haven't seen it. We don't know anything about it. I think it's wrong.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
What was added to the agenda that's not on the agenda?
Yes,
None of us sitting here know anything about this,
yes,
never had a chance to even look at it.
correct.
And maybe we would like to go ahead and make a public comment, but we're unable to because we don't know anything about it. Never seen it.
True.
Maybe we can get some copies.
Mhm.
I think it's wrong to go ahead and be springing stuff like that on the public.
Valid point.
Any other here in the log cabin? Going once, going twice? No? Okay. All right. If there are any members on Zoom that would like to provide public comment, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand, and the clerk would ask to unmute. Okay, seeing none? Okay, so we'll close public comment at this time. We'll move on to our commission reply. Do any of the commission have a reply to public comment at this time?
No.
Okay. All right, so our next item is our reports. Our first report up is our village manager report. Mr. Manager, are you prepared to move forward with your report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and village commissioners. First, I'd like to thank John Jenkins and his team for the festive look for the village log cabin here tonight. Thank you so much for putting this all together and sprucing it up on the outside and also on the inside during this holiday season. Also, I'd like to thank again the mayor, Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Huntington for their donations for the employee Thanksgiving luncheon that was held on Friday, November 21st. Although I was out of town and was not able to attend, we had many of our employees attend and said they enjoyed the luncheon. Also, we received a generous donation from one of our residents, Laura Graves. From the donation, we were able to give out turkeys for every employee and a $25 gift certificate for Thanksgiving. I want to wish her, thank her again for her continued support of our employees and for all that she does for our village. Our strategic planning session for 2026 has been set for the afternoon of February 13th and Saturday, February 14th. The planning session has been placed on the village calendar and on the website. I look forward to another productive session with our strategic planner, Herb Marlowe. The special meeting concerning the village attorney selection process is set for December 8th at 6 p.m. That agenda has been sent out yesterday and has been posted on the website. Tomorrow, I'll be attending the Miami-Dade Historic Preservation Board meeting. Attending the meeting with me is our code compliance director, our building official. On the agenda is the Bee House on 121st Street. The staff at the Historic Preservation Board are recommending denial of the application for historic designation of the structure. Upon the completion of the hearing, if they deny the application, we'll be moving forward on the demolition of the property. One of the LTCs that is attached on the agenda this evening gives information on the final report from the Florida Division of Emergency Management that I've been working on since I first started to work in the manager's office. We were able to have the final report rewritten from the first draft that recommended from the state of Florida to FEMA that the village repay an overrun cost of $63,700. The final report makes a recommendation from the state to FEMA of a cost overrun of $6,643.45. We were able to accomplish this with the assistance of Kimberly Carpenter from BC Peabody, who was one of our vendors during a hurricane. And she was actually here on the ground, Biscayne Park, during her whole cleanup effort. So she had firsthand knowledge of the event that was really crucial in submitting that final report. Respect for the upcoming holidays, closure of City Hall during Christmas and New Year's break will occur on Christmas Eve, Wednesday, December 24th. We'll be closing Village Hall at noon. On Thursday, December 24th, December 25th, Christmas Day, and Friday, December 26th, will be closed. Both those days, Village Hall will be closed. For New Year's, Wednesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve at noon, we'll be closing Village Hall. And then January 1st, New Year's Day, and January 2nd will be closed the entire day. The Parks and Parkways Advisory Board has scheduled a field fact-finding event to look at potential locations to plant new trees. The board is asking for input from our residents. The board will be at the following locations. On December 9th at 9 a.m. at the medium on 118th Street and 7th Avenue. December 13th, 9 a.m. at the medium of 118th and 7th Avenue again. And December 20th, 9 a.m. at the southwest corner of 113th Street and 9 a.m. where they're asking all our residents to come out to give input on the planting of the trees that we hope to get from our grant applications. Mr. Mayor, that's the end of my report. I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, for the update on the report. Are there any questions for the manager on his report at this time? Hearing none. I do have one question for you, actually, Al. I was actually going to bring this up on your second discussion item, but I was wondering, and I didn't approach you with this before, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I'm wondering what the status is of the hiring of the additional administrative employee, the assistant clerk position. I don't know if we labeled it that, but do we have an update on where we are with that?
Excuse me. Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're still in the process trying to collect resumes.
Okay. All right. We'll get to that item when we get to that item, but that was one of the solutions that I was considering or contemplating when we talked about that item. Okay. Thanks, Al. I appreciate the update.
I have a couple of questions in regards to the administration project that were going on. Albert, do you have any feedback in terms of the crosswalk that was approved by District 4 for us to build? The design was supposed to happen October 2024, the end of the design July 2025, and begin installation early next year.
I actually do.
Okay,
Jumped out ahead of me.
good.
I exchanged emails with Margie over in Commissioner Steinberg's office
Okay.
because one of the concerns that we had when the manager and I were discussing it, when the budget cuts were being discussed by the county, was if our project was going to be cut. But she confirmed that it wasn't, that the funding is still in place, and that she's reached out to DOT to give us an update. But the funds are still in place, and I did mention the same thing, that this is supposed to be completed by summer 2026, and that's going to be before us before we know it. So she said she's getting an update from DOT to find out what the status is with it, but the funding is still in place, and as far as I've heard, the timeline is still in place. So that's where we
Appreciate that feedback. And then the other one I have was if the money was given to the North Miami Foundation for Give Miami Day, and what was the total amount?
So yes, during the Give Miami Days, which I think that happened right before Thanksgiving, we went online and made those donations that had been budgeted by the commission.
And was there, I know that there was an additional match that was discussed because it was Miami-Dade. Do you know what the funds were?
Whatever Give Miami-Days was matching.
Can you
I don't
confirm
know.
back whenever you have a number?
Yes. sure.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions for the manager on his report?
Just make a comment.
Yeah, sure.
If, I know there was, the manager brought up that the Parks and Parkway Board's going to be doing this walkthrough.
Yes.
If, I'm just cautioning, 2 or more commissioners are going to appear and participate and have any conversations, you would need to get with Madam Clerk and make sure it's publicly noticed, because that would be considered a meeting under the Sunshine Law.
I was going to say, if not that, walk on separate sides of the crowd.
And don't talk to each other. Yes, I'm just giving you that, just that fair.
Understood. So probably a safe, kind of safety net idea to have it noticed. But I know, I sent that email, Al, about getting it out on the app, the dates and the locations and everything, the times. But certainly if there's going to be, I guess there's no way to know, if we just notice it beforehand. Yeah.
That would be wise.
Okay.
Then a question on the day, did we set this February 16th day before? I don't remember.
Which one?
For the priorities?
The 13th and the 14th?
Yeah, February 16th, did you say with Mr. Marlowe?
February 13th and 14th.
Okay, was that discussed among all of us?
I sent out a calendar invite and asked you for any comments, didn't get anything back, and so we scheduled it.
Oh, so it was just rescheduled. You were waiting for comments to see if everybody.
Yeah, I sent out, Commissioner, I think it was probably about a month ago when we started talking to him. We sent out an email and we also sent out the calendar invite to put it on your calendar.
All right. Yeah, so just making sure we have time, but I wasn't sure if that was discussed for all of us to agree when the best day would be. That would have been nice to bring it up for the commission to have a discussion, I think. No, but by email. One of the things I'll set it up as a starting on my commissioner report. I'll take this out, but it's important to have these conversations on dates so that we can all make sure that we're available to have a discussion with the majority. So again, I don't think this is part of an email. I think it's part of a conversation with the commission. All right.
Well, while we're on the point, I mean, I know you mentioned, I think last month in your report, Al, as well. I mean, did anyone have any conflicts with those dates? I mean,
There's plenty.
what were the times?
So the 13th is on a Friday, Friday the 13th. We'll be starting at noon and it goes to 5 o'clock. And then on the 14th, much like last year, it's on Saturday, beginning at 9 a.m., probably go till about 3. We'll have lunch, working lunch.
14th I can attend, the 13th I can't.
Well, since it's being raised for the first time about conflicts, Mr. Manager, recognizing that you reached out via email and asked for conflicts and didn't get a response, I know it's far out, but I guess the question for the commission at this time is if we want to entertain moving it. And if we're going to entertain moving it, we have to go back to Herb to see if he's available. So I think it's really up to the majority of the commission on how we want to handle it.
I'm open to moving it. I would want all the commissioners to be available, but also the question is our consultant available as well? Is he flexible to be able to move dates or not? Is that the only dates he has available?
Yeah, that was his first date available, so we picked it right away. So we were talking to him like in early November, so he was already booked up, so that was his first day, so we picked that right away. And I think Commissioner Samaria, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think any Friday you won't be able to make it any Friday, right? Okay.
Could we do this, Al? Could the commission give a few alternative dates for 2 days, right? We're looking at 2 days. Could we right now very quickly try to settle on a few alternative dates? We could have Al go back to Herb and find out, not move it for now, just so we have something locked in. I mean, I certainly agree it would be helpful and beneficial to have all of us there. but maybe look at a couple of alternative dates. Keep this one for now so we don't lose it, since we don't want to lose, you know, the benefit of having him here with us again. But look at a couple alternative dates in February and say, Herb, are you available on these?
And is there any way on, sorry, is there any way on the, like on a Friday, let's say at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock? At 12 o'clock is just, that's during the day, just can't do it.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we look at a couple of dates? You were going to say something? Sorry.
No, so February 13th and 14th was his available date for just for the whole month of February. I think
That's the entire month?
his next available was sometime in March and April.
Okay.
So, but, you know, if February 13th and 14th,
Well, maybe so we don't get bogged down right now with a lot of calendar checking and back and forth. Let's hang on to those dates now because we have
Okay.
them.
all right.
Maybe would you be able to inquire to Mr. Marlowe what his March looks like?
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, if I could ask for February 13th, is there anybody other than Commissioner Severia who can't make it on that date?
At this stage, I don't know because it's far apart, but I'm open for it. Let me ask, who had confirmed to your invite for February 13 and 14 for you to book it with Mr. Merrill?
I would have to go back and look, Commissioner. I don't have that off.
So you had at least 3 people in order to confirm?
I'll have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure I did.
I mean, I'm available on those dates. I know it's far enough out that I can work around, you know, whatever may come up. So I'm fine with it. You know, again, I think it's important that we do everything we can to have everyone here. So maybe Al, the best way to do it is to ask Herb to see what he has after, I guess, the first available after February, and maybe, I mean, the hard part about this for the commission is, you know, Al has to bring this back at every single meeting, and, you know, the longer we wait, the more dates get booked up. So I think it kind of has to happen by email. So maybe, Al, we could just try to see if he's got something maybe early March, and maybe, if he does, circulate it to the commission and just ask that everyone kind of be on the lookout. Does that work?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the manager on his report before we move on? Hearing none. Okay. Our next department report is from Code. We have Code here with us. Are there any questions on the Code Department report for this last month?
Just a quick one, Doreen. What does double fee permits stand for? Yeah. Because I saw it's at the top of your list.
Good evening, everyone. There's a section in the code where when people start construction without first obtaining permits, the village charges them double fees.
It's someone that started a project without a
Didn't-
permit
Correct.
and therefore is paying double the fees. Wow. So that's the most you've gotten for this month. And that, how much is that? Like when it's double the fee?
Depends on the cost of the permit.
Got it.
There are different fees depending on the size of the project and the type.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Doreen. All right. So Parks and Rec, any questions on the Parks and Rec report for this evening? Hearing none. Okay. Public Works, any questions for the Public Works report?
No update, John, about those holes and they were going around FDOT, never confirmed what that was about, if they were covered or not.
So, so Commissioner, we couldn't find any holes, but we saw the markings on it. And we talked to different people. They said that it was just engineering surveys. They think it was doing it by private companies, not by any government agency.
Okay, thank you.
What are the plans for the holiday lights? Moving along? Thanks, John. Got something?
We're gonna have like we always have every year, the Christmas contest for the lights that we usually have with the residents.
Yeah, I had actually a resident wonder about that.
We used to have the decoration contest.
Yeah.
That's usually hosted by the Arts and Culture Board. Maybe we could reach out to them and see if they're planning on hosting it this year.
Okay. All right. Our next item is the police report. Any questions on the police report this evening? Chief, I saw that there's a very high uptick in stop sign citations. That was, from what I understand, an effort of an intentional enforcement of stop sign violations. Is that right? Seems like it worked out very well. All right. I don't hear any questions. So Chief, thank you very much. All right. Finance, I don't think we have Paul with us. And building department, I don't think we have building department with us. So having completed the department reports, let's move on to commission reports. Any commissioners like to share any updates or reports before we move on to our consent? No? No?
Moving mine for about the tree protection, I had asked to be included on my commission report. I'll put it for January.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only, so I had a couple of things listed, but I know we kind of already hit a lot of them. The property tax meeting with the county mayor on December 15, that's coming up. The legislative session dates shifted a little bit, so I just wanted to make sure the commission was aware that we will have another opportunity to address that in January before we hit those dates. But I'll plan on being there. The crosswalk update was another one. What else?
Can I ask you, do you have any updates on the South Florida Water Management District?
No, only other than I think that they were pulling samples, right? Al, they're pulling core samples. So we're gonna have them here. Was it January or February?
It was in February.
February, okay.
Yeah.
I did speak to, so I had a brief legislative update with our Senator Chev Jones and had a brief legislative update with Representative Joseph as well. I did bring up the South Florida Water Management District to Senator Jones. His recommendation was if the communities here, and mostly identified by the Tri-Village communities, if the communities were not satisfied with what the district is doing, then his recommendation was to get together with the Tri-Village area and go to the legislature. I did bring it up to him, and that was his recommendation, was to kind of we still have a town hall where they're coming back to us again.
That's what I was wondering, because they said they were coming, and we said maybe they would give us an update in the next couple months or so.
It was after they were pulling the samples, so I think that was the town hall that we were talking about, but I can send an email out to Armando and get an update on when they think that might be, and I'll do that now because otherwise I might forget.
It's a workshop with the entire community.
Right, the village will be, right, the residents will be invited to come out and speak to them in the same way that they had the town hall at the Miami Shores Country Club. And then, so the manager and I had spoken briefly about this, and we've talked about this in the past, but it's never really materialized, was having a formal State of the Village address. And we've set a tentative date for January 22nd to hold that. We're still kind of planning it and putting it together, but the idea is to hold it, I think it was to hold it here outside the log cabin or somewhere right here in this immediate vicinity. We're going to set a time. And prepare a little State of the Village address, and invite the community, and invite all the employees and the staff and the commission and everything, and turn it into a little event. So I think I remember Commissioner Kennedy had brought it up a couple of years ago, and we were trying to do it, and it never materialized. So now we're going to put it together. So the tentative date right now is January 22nd. I think we were looking at probably late afternoon at the very earliest. Time change makes it a little difficult, but I think that's the time we were looking around, maybe 4 o'clock, right?
Yeah, we wanted to maximize the attendance, so that maybe some people would come during working hours, or just leave work a little bit early to come over and to attend the event.
Oh.
It seems like a lot of people, once they get home, they don't venture out again. So we could catch them on their way home. Maybe we'll get more people here.
So I know, there are several state of cities and counties and those addresses and everything. I know I'm sure the rest of the commission having received those blasts of the invitations. A lot of times they happen right in the middle of the day. So the idea was to try to set it late afternoon to try to get people here maybe after work. I'm open to suggestions if anyone has an idea on whether we should move it. I'm happy to consider it.
Is it again?
Well, we were looking at January 22nd in the late afternoon. So we still have, we still have tonight if anyone wants to make any suggestions about it, and we still have our January meeting if there's any last minute recommendations. So that's the tentative time, and as we develop it, we'll push out the updates to everyone. That was all I had for my report. And I know I don't think we had any others, so why don't we go ahead and move on from our reports and get to our consent agenda. All right, so we pulled several items from our consent, which I have written down here, but the remaining items on consent, I have E. Let me see, yeah. Well, what I still have remaining is what I was pointing out.
E, F, G,
E, F.
H, I.
Well, we had somebody pull F. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
So E, G, H, and I.
Yes.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve, a motion and a second to approve the amended consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So the amended consent agenda passes, and we will move on to our ordinances. Most of the items that were pulled were resolutions, so they'll move down to 11 after our ordinances. So our ordinances, 10A was deferred, so we still have 10B and 10C. So our first ordinance of the evening is ordinance 2025-03. And Brad, would you please read the ordinance for us? Correct. 03 was deferred, so we're starting with 04.
An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending section 19.1.4, application for vacation rental license of chapter 19, vacation rental license program of the Village of Biscayne Park Land Development Code to require a fire protection and life safety inspection by the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department as a condition of obtaining a vacation rental license, providing for inclusion in the code and scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And this was not changed from first reading to second reading.
Okay, Brad, thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to move the ordinance to discussion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-04, vacation rental application, fire safety inspections, second reading.
Second.
Okay, this being an ordinance, do we have any public comment either here in the log cabin or on Zoom on the ordinance before we move to discuss? Seeing none. Any on Zoom? I don't see any on Zoom. Okay. All right. Is there any discussion on the ordinance before we move to call for the roll? No, hearing none.
I have a comment. So on the resolution, this is a question I brought up to the attorney. The three ordinances we have for approval tonight, all of them require that they go through P&Z, or I'm sorry, it's a Planning and Design Review Board. And they're open for a hearing and for due public input and notice, and they have recommendation of its adoption. This happened November 17. I haven't seen the minutes of this. I would like, before approving any of the three of them, to have that happen, to have the opportunity to review that was actually done, due diligence in terms of public notice as well as input. I would like to understand if there was any residents that came forward with any concerns on any of them. But the same thing, what are the comments from the board? I don't know if there were any recommendations and within the discussions that they had. So I'm asking that is a more procedural question, because between I'm sorry, ordinance, the first reading and the second reading, this is when the meeting happened, right? Am I doing it right? Am I saying it right?
It was 17th, and yes.
Yeah, so it was between both of them. So I'm wondering if that, if this is something we can review prior for, I would like to see what the board had to say or suggestions that they made in order to move it. And, if there was anybody there with any concerns that we need to contemplate as a commission.
So, Brad, can I ask, from a procedural standpoint, whether the commission is able to pass an ordinance without having, without having the benefit of that information before us?
Well, the ordinance as it reads, you're acknowledging that the Planning and Design Board, the Planning and Design Review Board, sitting as the village's local planning agency, held that hearing on the proposed ordinance and that there was due notice and that it recommends its adoption. So that's the information that was provided to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And based on, and you would be affirming that and ratifying that by your vote on this ordinance.
Okay, Mr. Manager, had you received any information from, I'm just going to call it P and Z, I know
It's shorter.
it's a reflex. Had you received any information from P and Z that had objections or that was adverse to the passing of the ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, staff attended that meeting, so they are available to answer any of your questions that went on, but I don't think there was any, and correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, if there was any questions or anything about during those, when the items came up? Linda?
All of the items were discussed and voted on. The minutes were taken and submitted. All I can say.
I mean, I'm looking at the agenda. It was on the agenda for the
Okay,
planning agency.
Linda, thank you. So we have representation from staff that attended, that we didn't have any objection or any, that it wasn't voted against.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I do. Ideally,
I've had issues in terms of public notice and the whole circumstance of my item coming out related to that. But so I was hoping to see that as an inclusion for review. And again, since that just happened, I was wondering if anybody had raised their hand also with comments, from residents. And so is an opportunity is there any, do we have any time constraints as to not deferring this altogether, all three of them up for approval for next month, or any of them subject to, any time?
So may I
Right,
respond,
please.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
of course.
So as to this ordinance, no.
Okay,
As to the next one, which is dealing with recovery residences, the statute that was enacted by the legislature in the last session that required you to implement this ordinance requires that the ordinance be in effect by January 1 of 2026.
Hmm,
So you would not, you'd be a couple of days off
got it.
if you waited until a January meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, I can tell you that the statute does not contain any penalty or any clause explaining what happens if you were to enact it later than January 1 of 2026.
Other than just being in non-compliance.
Yeah,
with the-
but the statute does say that the mandate of the statute is that it's passed and in effect by January 1, 2026.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Understood. I think I understand your concern, Commissioner, and I think that it's valid. And, I think that it would be helpful when we have these things come before us to have that information presented to us. We have representation here that staff attended and that it was discussed and it was passed, and there's been no objection lodged from what I understand.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think that it would be nice to have those minutes and that affirmation before we do these. But I think based on the representations that we've had here this evening, I would feel comfortable voting on it. So that's just at least my position.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this ordinance? No? Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, would you, yeah,
Sorry.
I believe it was a vice mayor and,
Yeah, Vice Mayor, and then it was commission.
Thank you.
okay. All right, Madam Clerk, would you call roll, please?
Mayor Groff,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Samara,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansler,
No.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
The item passes 4-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our last ordinance of the evening is ordinance 2025-05. I think so. Brad, would you please read the ordinance on the record for us?
Yes, an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending section 4.4, community residential homes of chapter 4, housing of the Village of Biscayne Park Land Development Code by establishing procedures for the review and approval of certified recovery residences and creating a process for requesting a reasonable accommodation from any land use regulation that serves to prohibit the establishment of a certified recovery residence in accordance with section 387.487, subparagraph 15, uppercase A, Florida statutes, providing for inclusion in the code and Scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for repealer, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Brad. Do we have a motion and a second to move the ordinance to discussion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2505, amending LDC Chapter 4, recovering residency.
Second.
Okay, is there any public comment on the ordinance either here or in the log cabin or on Zoom? Not seeing any in the log cabin. Any on Zoom? Not seeing any. Okay. All right, are there any discussion items on the ordinance before we call the roll? None?
Just trying to understand if it's the same circumstances. I don't know that this needed to go through the P&Z board. Did it?
Yes, it did. It went through on November 3rd. Under your land development code, any change whatsoever to your
Has
land
to.
development code has to go before the Planning and Design Review Board sitting as the village's land planning agency for comment and approval.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sort of stuck in the same circumstance. If I had the whole information, I would have been able to vote with confidence.
I understand and think it still feel the same way. I still feel that it's a valid concern, Commissioner. I know that based on what the attorneys told us, not passing it now certainly would put us in non-compliance with the statute. So just having understood those items, are there any other discussion points on the ordinance before we call the roll?
No.
No.
Hearing none? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll on the ordinance, please?
Mayor Groff,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Samara,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansler.
No.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
The item is adopted on second reading 4-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So that concludes our ordinances for the evening. So let's move on to our resolutions, the amended resolutions agenda item. And we will start with our first, which is item A, well, what was previously 9A, which is resolution 2025-70. And Brad, if you would please read the resolution for us.
Resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving a turf and landscape maintenance department funded agreement between the Florida Department of Transportation and the Village of Biscayne Park, authorizing the village manager to execute the agreement and do all things necessary in furtherance thereof, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution?
Yes, I make a motion to adopt the resolution 2570, approving turf and landscape and maintenance agreement.
Second.
All right, so forgive me, but when I was doing the additions, deletions, withdrawals, I did not write down who pulled which of them. So
This one I pulled.
go ahead, Commissioner.
All right, thank you. So I just want to, so I had a conversation about this yesterday with the manager and the attorney. I understand we pay to FDOT a very minimum amount for the work we do in 6th Avenue. I'm sorry, they're paying us for a very minimum amount in compared to, the work they put in. And I think that's one of the questions that I have, whether we are fully covering our actual costs to maintain the area, and if not, what portion is the village subsidizing? this is something that is being presented to me and non-negotiable, sort of FDOT has a payment schedule. We just follow along. I wonder if there is an opportunity to revise that. So here's some of the things that we discuss. There was a meeting with FDOT to talk about changes on the landscape and beautification and safety concerns that included John, the manager, FDOT, and that they agreed to follow through. I'm wondering, first, what areas of the contract that we're signing in by passing this are changing from the prior contract, considering it's a new contract?
The contract is essentially, the terms and conditions are essentially the same as the previous one.
Yeah.
The way FDOT works with these agreements is they will provide an agreement with I believe it's either 2 or 3 renewals. I think it's 2.
Now you got to
And
start
then
fresh.
they want a brand new agreement. So what happened is you had a contract in place, you approved it. I believe, if I remember correctly, you approved it 3 years ago, the initial contract. It came up for 2 1-year renewals. You approved those renewals. And now the Department of Transportation wants a new agreement, and then you'll have that same process.
The question was because I didn't see anything red line and it says new contract, but it's under the same terms of the same amount of money we've been paying in the past, correct?
At least from when you asked during our meeting, I looked back 2 years, I was able to go back, and I think the amount was the same for the last 2 years. So this would be at least the 3rd year with the same amount.
So the first question that came up is if we're going to be changing landscape, that could essentially change how our staff is going to need to maintain the area. And how can we go about asking, I don't know if this is a call for, you as a mayor to elevate it to FDOT and have a conversation about what our costs are to maintain 6th Avenue versus what we get back. $2,800 a year. It's a ridiculous amount of money for the work that needs to happen in a small village like ours. Another thing I was thinking is, Doreen, when we go ahead as code and we enforce landscape maintenance, many times we've had that happen where our staff needs to take care and then we have to bill. There's a schedule per se that we have to follow through to bill in case we were the ones cutting the grass, for example, right? So we have a schedule that we implement with residents that's far more than the $2,800 a year we see here for the maintenance of 6th Avenue. So first, my point here is instead of saying this is what it is, if we can just have an analysis of how much time we spend and how much investment do we have, and can we present it to FDOT to see if they can provide, more of a compensation. It might be another no, but it might be a yes. It was a no, when we started talking about the ILA, it was a no when we started talking about the crosswalk. I think it's just bringing these things forward. If the discussion hasn't happened in the past, because that's what we're used to do, maybe there is an opportunity. So I just want to bring that to you guys to think about. And the other thing is, if we're thinking about beautification, is this something we decide in terms of is Parks and Parkways involved in choosing what landscape's going to be there? Because I would like them to be part of that project. So that was going to be the other point. So let's include Parks and Parkways in the project of beautification of 6th Avenue, because it is our main entrance to the village. So I would want that to see, input from the community and, they can provide, I know you mentioned there is a list of plants that can be picked from. And so those were my points. And again, I don't know if this, how the route and the mechanism is through the manager or Jonathan, if this is something you reach out, with an exercise to get feedback from.
I'm not, well, I should say I'm not aware of any reason why we couldn't. The question I would have, I would have a question about timing. When does I don't have it open, so I'm not looking. When does this agreement excuse me,
March.
end at the end of December of this year.
Believe it's March 2026, right?
Yes, the other agreement was a 2022 agreement, and it's set to expire on March 20th of 2026. And may I just make one comment as to Commissioner Hamsler's
Yeah.
statement with regards to the Parks and Parkway Board being involved?
Of course.
Under the agreement, if the village were inclined to replace or install new landscaping, that would have to be done with the approval of the Department of Transportation. Would be done at the village's expense. And pursuant to this agreement, any required maintenance of that new landscape would not cause the amount of the contract amount to go up. So that maintenance would be at the village's expense for anything. if it was
But in
approved.
effect, anything that we change or add to it, we would be responsible for maintaining it without any for additional and further compensation from FDOT.
Yes, and you'd still need FDOT's approval and agreement to install whatever new or replace whatever landscaping that you decided to do.
So, this is the way that I think that advancing the item would make the most sense. Al, did they give you did FDOT, did they provide any kind of deadline of, we need to have this thing signed by the end of the year? Or if, hypothetically speaking, if we do this in January, would it cause issue?
Mr. Mayor, they had asked us to put this on the November agenda. And they always ask us in advance because I think they have timelines that are imposed on them and they needed to get to Tallahassee and everything. So they ask us not to wait till the very last minute. So that's why it's on December.
Execution process is,
Well,
that's a good way to put it. I was thinking the word, so I like slow. It does get approved through Tallahassee.
so I think, Commissioner, the way that I think I understand the request here, at least the way that I would approach it is these are two items. One would be the amount that's being paid to Biscayne Park for the maintenance being done. And then two, going to Parks and Parkway and changing what the landscaping looks like. I think the second portion, the latter portion of that can really be done at any time. We don't need FDOT's approval to have the discussions internally and then go to them and ask them about it. But the dollar number is certainly something that I think is more immediate.
Yeah, and I mean, they're tied in if we go ahead and select landscape that's going to require, say, like trees or something that's going to require more maintenance and that effect is going to be more money for the village.
Right.
So I was just thinking, I mean, this is the feedback I received yesterday. The feedback was we want to do more beautification on 6th Avenue. We want to make it safer. The feedback from FDOT was yes, go ahead. But that's what I'm going to pay you regardless. That's basically what the contract says. I'm challenging those two aspects. A, can we do a cost analysis to understand what expenses go into doing this job so that we can initiate a conversation with FDOT and get a feedback as to can we negotiate? And B, let's involve Parks and Parkways. In terms of the timeline, I understand they want to do this ASAP, but our contract doesn't expire until March. So maybe this is an opportunity to go back. I mean, if they want to do it, they have processes inside because it takes longer. That's for them to go and solve. I mean, I see it as we have a contract until March 2026. So I would take this month and next month just to start a couple of emails showing an exercise where we put that forward. It's the entrance of the village. Again, if we can own that in the best way and get money for it, that would be wonderful. Even if it's double the amount, it makes no sense. $3,000 a year for that it's almost ridiculous. But anyhow, so that's my proposal. Maybe have this postponed, deferred, so those two items are explored.
So I don't have any problem, Al, if we reach out and have a meeting with FDOT together. If you and I could do that and speak to the representative and just talk a little bit about the cost and whether it's flexible at all to at least kind of approach that issue.
I could tell you, Mr. Mayor, from my experience, when the other cities I work for, we all had not only county mediums, but also state mediums that the county didn't maintain, the state didn't maintain, and they were willing for the local jurisdiction to take over that ability to do that. But it was never we never broke even on any of those ventures. You know, it was always at the cost of the city because we wanted to do a better job. Just take a look at Doral and what their mediums look like. You know, those are all maintained by Doral, and those are all put in by Doral. I can tell you between now and March, these were long-term objectives that we were seeking. It was nothing that was going to take place between now and March. These were long-term goals of them improving the safety, improving the look, maybe changing the landscaping plan. Those are long-term goals. That's not going to happen in the next 3 months.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's, I think, kind of highlights what I was saying before is I don't necessarily see the changes to the landscaping as being the issue that's immediately before us.
Yeah.
But the dollar number certainly could try. I don't want to push this. I understand what you're saying, Commissioner, that this goes out until March, and I that's a good point. But I also don't want to run afoul of FDOT that we're putting them into a difficult position and then all of a sudden we're losing their support entirely.
Right, and understand this, Mr. Mayor, if they change for us,
Mhm.
they're going to have to change for every jurisdiction in the state of Florida, right?
That makes sense.
Right, and they're not willing to do that.
Mm.
So
I hear that and I understand it, and I'm willing to have the conversation if it's the will of the commission to reach out and have that discussion and then bring it back in January for final approval.
Mr. Mayor, if I will, the way I look at this is if you scroll down, they itemize what we're minimum required to do, 24 times litter pickup, 18 times mowing, edging, weed control, 4 times tree trimming. It comes out to 46 times that our staff has to come out there. Some of those litter, you probably could pick up all the litter on 6th Avenue. It's a very small stretch, probably an hour, I'd say. Tree trimmings maybe take a little bit more, so average about 46 hours. That comes as $62 an hour. Our staff is not getting paid $62 an hour. I think we're well in our range here. We got to remember this is a 1/10 of a mile long stretch of 6th Avenue, and we only maintenance the medians. You don't mow those medians. There's no grass on them.
Yeah.
Mow the street. You don't even mow the swales. That's the residents' responsibility. So $2,800 to me is far more than reasonable. I'm ready to approve. I don't think there's any reason to go back and forth with this. I mean, the math makes sense.
The only consideration I was doing is just because if the landscape's going to change, to the point of, if we're going to be selecting new.
I see your point,
main-
Commissioner, but
Yeah.
when you think of them coming back to a plan and
Yes.
do parks and parkways and installation, that's not happening this year. That's a discussion for next year's renewal. Right now, I'm fine. We've wasted 20 minutes talking about $2,800. I think I'm ready to approve and let's move forward.
Yeah, but I want to make a point because you make it sound like it's 20 minutes for $2,800. That's the point. I'm trying to make it worth more, right? And I think we've gotten a lot of no's and, a lot of experience of getting no's first and then knocking on doors and getting things revised. So this is one of those things that doesn't hurt, just initiate a conversation if we've never had it. I can tell you in 3 years, we've just approved, which is about what's going to happen now. Let's approve $2,800, it's fine. I'm just saying maybe there is a different way to approach it, but I hear you and I respect the majority. Yeah.
All right, well, if there's no further discussion on the item then, we don't need a roll on this, so I'll just, I'll offer the resolution for vote to the commission at this time. So all in favor of approving the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. So we'll move on to our next resolution, which is 2025-71, which is formerly 9B. Brad, would you please read the resolution for us?
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving the employment agreement between the Village of Biscayne Park and Carlos Avila for the position of Chief of Police, authorizing the village manager to execute said agreement on behalf of the village and providing for an effective date. And if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Please.
just so that it's clear that there's 2 attachments. You have the resolution with the attached exhibit, which is the agreement for for Chief Avila.
Mhm.
There's also attached another agreement, which was the original version of the agreement that was submitted to me for review. They're fairly similar. There's only one provision that's changed in them, which was a non-disparagement clause that, upon my review and recommendation, was taken out of the agreement. I know for sure, just in speaking to the chief, that chief would like to see that in the agreement. But just so you're aware, you do have two separate agreements attached to the agenda. So what's up for at least approval is the exhibit that's attached to the reso.
So let me just make sure I'm clear. The one that's up for approval, the one that's attached to the resolution is the one with or without the disparagement?
It's without,
Without, okay.
and that's certainly up for your consideration and discussion if you think that's appropriate to put back in.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion in a second to move to discussion?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2571, approving employment agreement of Carlos Herrera, Chief of Police.
Second.
Okay. So I'll open for discussion. I think that,
I was want to pull this and Amsler.
yes.
Like I said,
Okay.
I just wanted more of a discussion of exactly what's in this agreement and everything, because yes, residents can look at the website because it is on the website, but I just want it for transparency. So I do approve of this, but I just want to basically, if the city manager can talk about, or the attorney talk about what's in the agreement.
So you jumped out ahead of me. No, it's okay. I know that there was a cover memo from the manager, I think, on this one, correct? Is there anything that you wanted to comment on with respect to the cover memo or the item generally, Mr. Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I could. So I think we were very fortunate to have somebody of Carlos Avila statue and background as our police chief. And certainly somebody of his caliber and professionalism is somebody that we want to keep and keep here with the village and something that we haven't had in the past. So I know there was some concern that our past police chiefs, we may never had an employment agreement with our past, but I think this is a time to start that. Certainly there's things going on within the village. I could tell you, Chief Avila is recruited by other jurisdictions, but not only within police departments, but outside police agencies. And I'm happy that he's here and he wants to make a commitment to the village, and I want to show our commitment to him by bringing forward this agreement. This agreement is just memorializing most of the benefits that he's getting now, with the exception of if he is terminated without cause, that he would get a 20-week severance package in accordance with state statute. So that's the only real major difference between what he's currently getting and then what this agreement provides for him. But I'm certainly very happy with his performance, and I think I speak for the majority of this commission when I say that he's done an outstanding job in the short time that he's been here. And also that I get feedback from many of our residents on the great job that he's doing. So that's why I brought this forward for your consideration.
You just add the only other minor change to the agreement changes, as opposed to your employee rules, is regarding being able to, how he'd be able to bank a day if he has to work on a paid holiday. He gets an 8-hour day. Under this provision, he would be able to bank it and use it whenever he sees fit. And under the employee rules, he would be required to work to use that. He banks the 8 hours, but he would be required to use it within the same month of the holiday. So that's, which is a minor, but just so you're aware that that's the only other distinction.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Brad. All right. So outside of, well, we've had an introduction. We know that the Vice Mayor pulled for discussion. So I'll just kind of open to the commission on discussion on the item before we move to resolution. So what other discussion items were there on the agreement?
Yes. So I pulled that item myself as well. So first off, I didn't know, and this was a question for the attorney. We'd never had a chief of police contract before, as far as you know, correct? From,
Not as long as we've been your attorneys that I'm aware of.
okay. So that's the number one reason I don't think it fits within the, consent agenda. I think it's a poor decision to put it over here. I think it needs to be for discussion, and I wanted to make sure to make a space for that. We're setting precedent with this contract for future chiefs of police, and so it's important to have that open conversation about what that means. With that said, I asked also to get some context. I don't know how to read a chief of police contract and understand if it's in line with what's expected, if other cities are doing it similar or not. And the attorney provided me with Tallahassee, Sanford, Key West, North Miami, and Edgewood as comparisons, which actually were very helpful. So thank you. So my first question is, how do you build this contract, Brad? So who built the contract? Did you build the contract? Was the manager building the contract? Where's the contract coming from as a template?
The manager provided me with an agreement and asked me to review it. So I
Okay.
reviewed it and made some comments, reviewed it for legal sufficiency. I mean, the contract, the terms and conditions of the contract, as police chiefs agreements go, is a pretty standard agreement. Depending on the circumstances, there may be certain tweaks with different jurisdictions. For instance, if the police chief is being promoted from within a department, a lot of times that candidate will ask for provision which states that if they're not terminated from the chief position for cause, that they get reinstated to their last position. They don't lose their pension and retirement benefits on earning. I mean, but for this type of situation where you have a new chief coming in from the outside, as Chief Avila is, the terms and conditions are pretty standard for those municipalities and that have these types of agreements.
So it has all your green light in terms of it being a template for the village moving forward.
It's legally sufficient. Yes.
Perfect. The other question I had is the chief subject to an employee evaluation like the rest of the employee? You mentioned the employee's manual. I wasn't sure if that applies for chief of police as well, or is it usually something you would include separately on a contract?
Can be included separately in the contract if that's so desired. If there's a provision in the manual that is not addressed within the chief's contract, then the employee manual would apply to the chief and his position.
Got it. So it includes it already within the manual, the employee manual.
So the employee manual still applies to the police chief position in the
Perfect.
village.
Yeah.
This is for lack of better terms, this is a supplement to that agreement. So if the agreement is silent as to a provision that's contained within the employee manual, then that provision in the employee manual
Yeah.
would take precedence, which is why I brought up, as we were talking about the bank vacation day that he can take.
Got it.
There's a bit of so this provision would prevail over the employee manual, excuse me, because it specifically addressed the agreement.
Okay. So that specific comment that you made, one of the things I noticed in some of these contracts is that most agreements would have like a 24-hour availability clause. So that there is like an expectation of, or, clearance in terms of what our overtime expectations are. Is that something that is addressed? I don't think I saw the,
Look in section 1.3,
let me get to that.
where it's addressing that sorry, I'm calling you employee, but Chief Avila is a salaried full-time employee. However, as a department director, from time to time, the employee is expected to work hours in excess of 40 hours per week to ensure the proper oversight, participation, and involvement in the duties and responsibilities of the chief of police. This includes, but not limited to, participating in events, commission meetings, performing routine oversight visits of shifts assigned to the police department, patrol division, and responding to emergencies. So it's incumbent that this is a full-time position.
Yeah.
However, it is expected that he works over 40 hours, and he's not, based on his position, he would not be entitled to overtime. If
Got
that, if that's the question.
Yes.
He's an exempt employee by virtue of his position.
Great.
Well,
So that clears that. And then the last comparison or the information I was bringing for that I wanted to bring for y'all's attention to see your feedback, but is majority are within the cap of 6 weeks to 12 weeks for reduced, not reduced, but reduced to what we have in the contract cap for severance. So I think Edgewood had like 6 weeks, Key West had 12 weeks. So I wanted to understand the statute, in the statute, it's 20 weeks the max allowed?
Yes, per statute, that's the most that he can earn.
Okay,
And the rest are just, that's decisions of those municipalities.
okay. So I don't know how everybody feels about that, the salary that's been approved and going as the first contract on the chief of police to the limit of the statute for 20 weeks of cap at severance. Those were my comments. So thank you for the feedback. I don't know how you feel about the last point. That's the only one that I wanted to hear your feedback.
We say just,
The statute, it says it's 20 weeks max, which is what the contract says. Other contracts for reference are between 12 weeks. At different price points of salaries and benefits, of course, that varies.
I thought you
just-
said compensation too. Were you saying compensation?
Compensation varies, right, across the different, cities. But this is talking specific about the severance and how many weeks can you cap it?
Commissioner, what cities were those you listed?
It was Tallahassee, Sanford, Key West, North Miami, and Edgewood.
All much bigger municipalities than us. So it's fair to reason, I haven't looked up those salaries, that their salaries are probably way higher than,
I'm not. Edgewood is less.
for me, I'm perfectly fine with 20 weeks. That is a protection for the employee. So that way if there's a changing of the guard at the person who sits to your left, not talking about the attorney, the manager,
Yeah,
that they wouldn't on a whim fire the police chief and bring in their own police chief. Having continuity in the police force is a huge deal. I am
Yeah.
perfectly fine with 20 weeks. I don't anticipate him being fired for a random whim, but I'm glad that protection's in there for him. So that way he feels security in his position.
Mm.
I agree with that. It's because, a new city manager comes in, can always get rid of the chief of police. And I think we have done that in the past. So I don't think we have a problem with this chief.
Just-
I just don't have a problem with 20 weeks. I want him to be protected. I've always fought that order. I agree that Chief Steele should have had a contract. The one before him should have had a contract, and we need to start protecting to keep a police chief around for more than one city manager.
So yeah, I agree with that. I agree with all of it. Actually, I agree with the contract. I think that's a way to show commitment on our side. I don't think I agree with the fact that we're going full to the 20 max for severance cap. I think we could have started in between. There is example from 6 to 12 weeks because this again is set in precedent. That's 5 months. And, for reference and doing due diligence, comparing other information, I think we would be at the top, compared to cities like Key West, to your point, a lot larger than us. But okay, that was it. I have to say, Chief, I am very happy that you do have a contract. I'm happy you join us. Of course, I already said that when you got appointed. I do feel this was needed in terms of organizing a bit the department and give the head of the department the consistency and the commitment from the commission, but the staff. And so I think it's very much needed. I am just doubting, and I was like thinking whether that's a lot or not, but I think I'm ready to vote whenever you are.
Okay. I think that one of the things that I fall back on too is we have a statutory, yes, we have the statutory definition of severance, but we have the statutory definition of cause.
Yes.
So, go ahead. What's that?
No, I didn't interrupt you.
No.
So I just want to make one comment. And I think it needs to be made. we did have a former police chief had a employment agreement, and that was Chief Steele had an agreement, but it never wasn't approved, it wasn't reviewed by the village attorney, and of course, it never came before this commission. Our current employee manual says that the village manager can approve or issue employment agreements. And that's something the village attorney and I had discussions over. And the village attorney had stated that that's true that the village manager has the ability to issue it, but it has to be reviewed by the village attorney. So this agreement didn't have to come before you this evening. It could have been just reviewed for legal sufficiency by the village attorney, and myself drafting it up, reaching an agreement with the chief. But I think as a process of full disclosure, we brought it before you this evening for your review. And I told the village attorney at the time, I don't feel comfortable issuing any employment agreements without bringing them before the village commission for their approval. And we're actually going to change that language that's in the current employee manual to change that so the village manager in the future doesn't have that ability. So I think that I wanted to make that comment to put that on the record, but I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I think, we saw what happened with the other situation with a contract that we knew nothing about, and what happened with fallout from that. So I think that it's far more favorable and preferable that it come before us. So I'm glad that it was before us. I'm glad we had an opportunity to discuss it, and I'm certainly interested in hearing more about how this is going to change in the future for the powers and the powers and authorities of the manager. So just finish my thought. You having the statutory definition of for cause, I see that as a safety net, that if there's any significant and major problems, not to say that there ever would be, Chief, because I personally have been very satisfied with your work here in the village so far, and I'm very happy that you're here with us. So let me just make that very clear. But for having the statutory, having the statutory definitions of for cause and what we are able to do in the event that something does happen, certainly, gives me, a little bit of comfort knowing that we have that available to us. So I'll go ahead and I will, if there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and ask the commission to for a vote on the resolution. So all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Congratulations, Chief.
All right, and let's go ahead and move on to our next resolution, what was previously 9C, which is resolution 2025-72. Brad, would you please read the resolution for us?
Computer's a little slow. I apologize.
No problem. I'm sure it's not our new
No,
high-speed internet and router.
they've been doing some work on my computer, and I think they slowed it down instead of sped it up. A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving the purchase and installation of microphones and cameras from Next Level Systems, Inc. to be installed in the village log cabin in an amount not to exceed $8,433.44, authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement with Next Level Systems, Inc. and do all things necessary to effectuate this resolution and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion and second? to
Make a
this?
motion to approve 2025-72, approve and porch and install mics and cameras in the log cabin. We desperately need this. Desperate.
Second.
Okay, I don't remember who pulled this one.
I am.
Okay, go ahead,
Right,
Commissioner.
quick question. So I was wondering, there's part that's already been completed, which is great to hear. I 100% agree. This is very needed. And there's part that is going to happen. Do you have a timeline as to when everything will be finalized?
We anticipate the next 30 days, Commissioner.
What's that?
We anticipate the next 30 days.
Okay, so within the next 30 days, do you feel this is what it needs to happen in order to have the transparency you address in your item? No issues with the cameras moving forward? Do you think this will do it?
There are other improvements that we're also looking at, but I think this is a that helps us to move forward with our being very transparent in our meetings. And as you can see, I think you can just see this evening, the quality of our video is a lot better than it has been in the past,
Yes,
capturing everybody on the dais.
it does, and we do need it. That was it. That was my only question. Thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion on this item?
Yeah, the only discussion I have is, this is podium right here is definitely going to be fixed, right? Because if they pull out that podium, it pulls out the wires. So that's definitely going to be changed, right?
Yeah, we're looking into that, Commissioner.
Okay, if there's no other discussion on the item, I'll go ahead and ask the commission if to approve the resolution. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's what was previously 9C. Our next is 9D, which is resolution 2025-73, the agreement with Access. Brad, would you read the resolution for us, please?
Yes, sir. A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving an agreement between the Village of Biscayne Park and Access Information Management Corporation, doing business as Access, for record scanning, indexing, imaging and media conversion services, utilizing the pricing terms and conditions of the City of Hollywood agreement in an amount not to exceed $50,000, authorizing the village manager to do all things necessary to effectuate this resolution, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion and a second to move to discussion?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-73, approving the new agreement with Access.
Second.
Okay, Alec, did you
You did.
pull this one, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, did you want to introduce it? Okay. So did you want to introduce it for us, Al, please?
Yeah, so this is an agreement that had originally been enacted back in 2021 by our former village manager. And we had piggybacked on an agreement with the City of Hollywood for our record retention and record scanning and indexing and imaging and media conversions. And the project had started in 2021. I think we had completed most of the project in 2022. The original amount was for $116,000. Of that, $116,114 was paid out. There was additional boxes that were delivered to Access that wasn't part of the original project. When I first came to the village back in October of 2024, Access was calling me already. There were some emails that were pending that weren't returned, and I've been working with Access since that time to just find out what this was all about and how to move forward. I think Matthew Bennett from Access is online, and I think he's available, Mr. Mayor, to answer all your questions. But in a nutshell, to finish the project is an additional $50,000 for those additional boxes of files that were delivered to Access after the project had originally had begun, and that was back in sometime in 2022.
All right, thanks, Al. Commissioner, I know you would ask this one be pulled as well. Was there any specific item that you want to bring up separate and apart from what Al has already introduced for us?
Yes, so I have questions in terms of the timeline as to, so I was sort of lost. Yesterday we had a meeting, and the $50,000 that you're describing here, I thought was part of the 116 originally.
No, it is, yeah, I had misspoken. That is additional $50,000
Okay.
is to finish the project.
So the 50 grand extra we're gonna need, it has to come from this year's budget.
That's correct.
So the first question was gonna be where from?
Well, I'm confident, when speaking with finance, that we have funds that we can cover this just by moving some money around. And there was some, you had an item, you had an LTC that was on the commission. Also this evening, you talked about $67,000 for hurricane debris that had. I was told by finance that money had been allocated or was available, so that this $50,000 would come from that $67,000 that they'll need to pay to the state because of our revised report to the state.
Commissioner, I don't want to interrupt your.
No, go ahead.
I'm curious, Al, the question that I had was the 116 that was originally allocated for the project to complete the project, right? So if it was based, if the maybe, and this might be a question for, who do we have? Matthew Bennett?
Yes, I am online.
There we go. Hi, Matthew. Thanks for being with us this evening.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
So the question that I have is, we get a quote, and this was 2021, so this was some time ago. Obviously, this was before, well, I think Art and I think Dan, you guys might have been here at that time. But I guess the question that I have is, we get a quote for 116 for, I imagine, what is the entirety of the project. So, and maybe, I'm sorry, Matt, right?
Yes.
Matt, maybe you might be able to describe or explain to us why that the original contracted amount of 116,000 didn't end up covering the entirety of the project, or I'll let you explain.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I was a part of the actual initial pickup too. So what I'll speak for is what I also saw. We did a pickup of, it was 228 boxes in total. We scanned 119 boxes, and a couple of those boxes were larger than your standard size box. So what happens is when you do a project of this size, you charge per image, and when you have a larger box, more images fit within that box. Another big piece that sent us because we did 192 out of the 228. That was the goal, 228 boxes. And so another big piece of this scanning was the blueprints that the Village of Biscayne produced. And we initially estimated about 1,000 blueprints to be digitized. I think we picked up over 2,500 blueprints. Blueprints require a different scanning mechanism than our scanners. So that added to the cost that pulled away from some of the box scanning. That being said, upon getting close to completion, Mario and Shantae, the previous village manager, we were meeting with them on a monthly basis, going over the numbers. They said, hey, the property files, the address files look great. Please pick up some additional administrative, HR, executive meeting minutes files. Our team in Miami handled that. And there was an additional 50 boxes picked up. So when we had told them, hey, this is going to put you over the budget, we stopped it at around December of 2023, and we waited for approval. And as you know, Mario was no longer with the organization, but we waited and would update the village manager from time to time to see, because what's happening is boxes are still being stored at our facility. We don't mind storing them, but we'd like to help you guys finish your digitization project that initially kicked off about 4 years ago. So I'll leave it at that. More boxes were picked up, and I know we had scanned them into an SFTP. So pretty much anything you guys may see digitized right now was scanned by Access. So yeah, feel free to pound some questions off me. Been a part of the process for about 5 years now.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Al, can I ask you very quickly? I remember a long time ago now that this came up, and I remember actually talking to Shantae quite a bit about it when she was basically explaining that there was a room where there are boxes and boxes of items that needed to be scanned and digitized because it was like a filing mess or an organizational mess. So the one question that I have is based on your understanding of where we are with this process, does this additional 50,000 that we're being quoted by Access, does this complete the digitization project for Biscayne Park?
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay. The next question I have, and I don't know if it's for Al or if it's for you, Matt, is having been quoted the original 116, understanding your explanation as to what additional records make up the additional ask now, what kind of safeguards do we have that the amount won't exceed 50,000?
So I have a project manager that manages the quoting process. And so as we got close to that $115,000 marker, we contacted the team and said, "Hey, we are running up against the budgeted amount." So I've already talked to Carla, who is our manager for document scanning in Miami. I told her, "Hey, the budget's 50,000 to complete this project. We need to make sure we get everything that we have on hand scanned and pulled off the shelves." So if that means we'll let Al know if we're getting close, but from what I see and what we've collected already, that will finish the project. If I find us getting close, I'll ensure Access eats the charges and just gets the project completed, because I know this has been going on for quite some time now. It shouldn't go over, but my project manager, myself, and Carla, who is our scanning manager in Miami, will monitor that, and we send out status reports to the Village of Biscayne team monitoring the budget. And I sent that out today.
Understood. I appreciate that. Here's a quick follow-up, and I promise I don't have much more. Is the estimate that you're providing to finish the project, is this based on the information that you are currently storing, or is this based on the documentation that you are storing plus additional documentation that you still need to pick up from the village?
So this is based on the documentation that we are currently storing, and I believe there was another 20 or so boxes that Al had mentioned need to be digitized that were administrative files. So if there's more, I'd like to have a conversation, but this is based on everything we currently have on hand and a little bit extra that we included for a pickup.
Hmm.
Okay.
Correct, Al, if I'm wrong. I thought there was some additional stuff that I included.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, my first question has to do with the timeline. I mean, this is what I recall, and again, this is going on since 2021, so I can't tell you, half of this commission wasn't even there. Why wasn't this included in the budget? So how long was this recognized to be missing? That we have $50,000 additional and more boxes that hasn't been processed. It's been going on since 2021. Why wasn't this put in the budget and it comes out as a request now?
I can't speak for that.
No, I'm asking the manager.
Oh, okay.
So Commissioner, we were back and forth on the negotiations, and we've been working on this for a while. So I'm confident that we can find money in the budget to cover this cost.
Yeah, I know that we can always recover costs. The point of having a preventive measure during the workshop is that we assess every dollar the right way. So then that's the other part. So to be honest with you, I'm a little lost as to what in the timeline of 4 years has been done, what's pending to be done, the 20 boxes that might be here, and the idea that if we pay 50, we're done. If I'm not mistaken, I would have to go try to find, during 2023, there was a discussion, and I think Mario was here, and I think to your point, Shante, where we asked the same question. This 50 grand is going to get us there. And the answer was yes. And so I think I need more, I just need to go back and try to understand, when this is, since when we've been talking about this, and if it's in effect, all that's going to be needed, right? Let me ask, so everything that happens now through permitting process, everything digital, so we don't have, what specific items are needed of digitization from now on? What items are going to be digitalized?
What items are going to be digitalized?
Yes. So you have a bunch of boxes that are from 2021
Oh, well,
and
we're trying to complete this project, Commissioner. Going forward, I would explore other ways to retain our records. So I wouldn't, I don't want to commit to doing this process in the future. I would explore other ways to do it.
but what I'm asking is from our permitting process and everything that goes on. So all of that is already digital. We've already solved a big part of the issue. Before it used to be all paper. So is this something that would be coming to the commission on a yearly basis to, go ahead and I don't know what else, administrative files it might be that needs to be digitized and that requires an additional cost?
There are other ways to maintain your records and store your records that you don't have to digitize. So those are areas that we would explore before making any a commitment in the future.
All right.
I can also speak to the inventory that we currently have on hand, Commissioner. Looking at some of the inventory report, it's payroll files, it's cash reports, it's RFPs, and these are all from 2006 to 2013. So it is old files. I know a lot of stuff, goes into long-term storage many times, but I believe Mario's goal was to transform the village into more of a digital, and everything is searchable. So now these images can be gone through and searched for more efficiency.
Yeah.
I know you had a question.
I was just curious, Al, were you able to speak to Mario today about this?
No, I wasn't able to. I got involved with other stuff today, and I had an opportunity to reach out to him. I did talk to Matt and made sure that Matt was going to be here tonight.
Okay.
I do have one question, for the mayor, or maybe for the manager, or maybe for Matt. The content of these scans, I know you mentioned blueprints. Mr. Manager, is there a possibility that the building fund could pay for some of this? Because since it's a building documents, is there maybe somebody we can recoup some of these funds through that form?
Through,
Well, if they're building department paperwork that we're digitizing, why wouldn't the building department and the building fund pay for this?
yeah, that's something we can explore. Yes, Commissioner.
That's a good point. Yep.
Yeah, the only thing I have is they're gonna be, because we're gonna have other stuff that, for the future that we're gonna have to, is there gonna be like a standard fee that we're gonna have to pay?
No, as I said, Commissioner, we would explore other ways to retain our records that I have utilized in other cities that I worked for, and there's some managers like to keep everything. My philosophy is once it meets the state retention schedule, and you could destroy it, you should destroy it.
And it was mentioned that the files are up to 2013. Did I hear that right? From 2006?
That is, some of the years are on the boxes because we were able to index them and put them into an inventory report for quick access if needed. Yes.
And so, Mr. Manager, so the years after that, is that being held at the offices here? So at some point, that's going to come back to try to digitalize, right?
All right. Are there any other questions for the manager or for, I'm sorry, Matt, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt. Are there any other questions for the manager or Matt before we move forward with the resolution?
One last question that I just thought of. The original agreement, how was that broken down? Was it the amount of boxes? I heard he said, Matt said a number 228, or was it per document? Because there was also talk about a per document. So how does that broken down?
Commissioner, I have it in front of me. It's attached to your resolution as part of the exhibit. So the description, it was a 3-year agreement broken down into 3 separate years. It looks like document scanning was estimated at 190,000 images. Oversized scanning was estimated which is the blueprints. It's
Yep.
which is estimated at 1,300 images. The price for the document scanning was at 25 cents per image, and the blueprints were at $1 per image or per blueprint. I'm sorry. And the total estimates for this is for year one. For the 190,000 documents was 47,500. For the blueprints, it was $1,300 was the estimate. And there was some small one-time setup, non-recurring costs of about $412. So for the first year, the contract amount was $49,212. For the second year, there was an estimated scanning of 200,000 images at 25 cents per image for $50,000. And then in the third year, there was an estimated 63,250 images at 25 cents per page, at an amount that totaled $15,812.50, which is where you got to your $116,000.
Okay, so Matt, real quick, the 50,000 that we owe, we're not, that you're just saying that those are the additional boxes that were delivered after whatever, or does that include some costs associated with overages that you've already done the first 3 years?
Yeah, that would be overages from the first 3 years. So 115,000 was completed in scanning. And it was towards the end of the project where I believe it was actually August of 23 where we did additional pickups at the request of Mario and Shantae. So it's going to be the overage and a little bit of the last few boxes remaining from the 228. I think 195 were completed.
So this has already been done?
Only part of the project.
Most of the project.
Most of the project has already been done, right?
Correct.
Did somebody agree to that additional cost?
No, that is what we are meeting for today, I believe.
So you did the work, but you didn't submit it anything? You didn't get
I'm
an
sorry.
approval?
We have not done the scanning for the additional boxes. We just had them picked up. And at that point, Mario's team said, hey, or we said, hey, we're coming up to the end of your budget, so we can't scan them in yet. So we have not done the work for the project.
Okay, so now you got me confused. So this 50,000 is not for overages in the previous first 3 years. This is for something that you haven't done that's currently pending in a storage in a warehouse somewhere, right?
Correct, yes.
And you said it's about 50 boxes, right?
I believe it's a little over 50. 50 is what we have on hand, and then there was another 20, potentially 20 or so at the village's offices that needed picked up in. Yeah.
Okay, it just sounds a little weird to me personally that we went from 228 boxes at 116 to ask for $50,000 for a little bit over 50 boxes. It seems like the price. That's why I was thinking that this has something to do with the overages in previous projects that you had from the first 3 years, because it just sounds like it's a lot more money now as far as these particular boxes is concerned than what you charged the first time.
Gotcha.
Brad, can I ask you what's the state retention policy for the look back period for documents?
Depends on the nature of the documents. There's the schedules specific to the types of documents that you're looking at. So
Do any of those schedules go back as far as 2006? Yes, they do?
yeah, some of them do.
Okay.
I mean, some
HR files are 75 years
Yes.
after the employee leaves your jurisdiction.
law enforcement files are,
And then there's criminal files that you have to keep a lifetime. You can never destroy those.
Good answer. Okay.
I mean, digitizing is a industry standard for municipalities.
I remember having the discussions with Mario and Shantae several years ago that we were well overdue.
Yeah, for several reasons.
Yeah.
And just if I can, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but just reviewing previous emails and other communications that I've seen while we were sifting through this agreement, it looks like in December of 2023, there were boxes and materials that Access had on the premises that they did not process because they ran out of budgeted funds. And
That
that's
is
when
correct.
and
Yeah.
that's when they started to
Store them.
communicate. Well, they were storing them and
Right.
attempted to communicate with village staff about next steps. The agreement that was approved back in 2000, I forgot what year, the original
22,
Yeah.
21.
January
December of
22.
21 that you all approved, it had a provision in it in which if you got to the point where the budgeted funds were expended and did not cover the entire project, that there was a provision where a change order could be created and finish the project with the additional funds. The reason why we're here today is because your contract expired with Access, and therefore you couldn't now go forward with a change order because you can't extend the contract once it technically is legally expired. So we're here now entering into a new contract, and the Hollywood contract that you originally procured off of is still in effect, so we can use that without having to go out any issue of bidding or any other procurement issues.
So I have a question for that because, my question was if the files are up to 2013 to still come to 2026 very soon, there's a lot of work to be done. The feedback from the manager that there's other ways to do this. It wouldn't necessarily be this one. But if the project has not started, why would we not consider doing it another way? Why would we not consider another vendor? Why would not we go for a bidding process to see what alternatives are out there instead of continue with this vendor?
Mr. Mayor, if I will, just some clarity for Matt. The original project was 228 boxes you picked up, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And the contract was for 210, so you picked up 18 boxes more than the contract was for.
Yes. Yeah. So when we arrived, I was on site and we packed up more than we initially.
Okay. So
thought.
already from day one, you were already 18 boxes over. And then you picked up an additional boxes from Mario Enchante. How many boxes was that? 50, you said?
Scrolling through an inventory report, looks like there's 43 boxes, but I can't confirm their size yet. I'd have to check with my location.
So 43 boxes, and then the estimated 20 boxes that are still here in the village that need to be picked up as part of this project, correct?
Correct, yes.
So that comes to 81 boxes. So there's 81 boxes that need to be digitized now. So of the $50,000, I got to divide it out and see what that costs per box. We'll figure out what the price is. But this project has already started because we started with 228 and we scanned 192, I believe the number was, Matt.
Correct.
So we're well over 50% of this project done. So we're just talking about 81 boxes, which is still a substantial number of boxes, but that just for clarity for everyone, so there's no confusion. I was just doing the math here and I wanted solid numbers.
So I just wanted feedback to my question that was before the commissioner went. My question was, is there another way to do this? Albert, that's a question for you. So you said there's other ways to do that. I wouldn't do it the same way for 2013 on. Why do we need this contract with this vendor? Why are we not bidding this out? What other alternatives do we have instead of renewing the contract?
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, if I could. So I think in my professional opinion, we should complete this project and then in the future explore other ways of retaining our records. But I think, the vendor, this has been going on for a very long time and it's been thrown in my lap, and I think now it's come before you. Some of you weren't here when in 2021. But I think we should complete this project and then in the future explore other ways of retaining our records and maybe digitizing those that are long-term records. But for present, I'm in agreement that the best solution is to approve this agreement this evening and complete the project.
Is there any other questions or any other discussion to be had on the resolution before we move it forward? Hearing none?
No.
Okay. So the motion and the second is still on the table. All in favor of approving the resolution?
Aye.
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 Nope.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, just for context, I finished my math. 2021 prices were $552 a box. Today's prices are $617 a box.
Okay.
Estimates.
All right. Thank you. So that was previously, I think, 9D. So our next item is what was previously 9F, which is adopting the commission regular meeting schedule, which is 2025-74. Brad, would you please read the resolution for us?
There it is. I had trouble finding it.
9F. Yep.
Resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, establishing the regular commission meeting schedule for 2026 and providing for an effective date. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion in a second?
Make a motion to adopt Commission 2574, adopting Commission regular commission meeting schedule.
Second.
Okay. I think Commissioner Huntington, I think you'd pull this one, correct?
Yes, I pulled this one. First things, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, the April, July, and October dates seem to be incorrect. Those are coming up as a Thursday for me, not a Tuesday. Unless my calendar is off.
See what iOS has to say.
April, July, and October.
April 2. Yeah, I see it as a Thursday. The first Tuesday would be, this is April, would be April 7. What was the other one?
July.
July. Yep, you're right. I see it as a Thursday as well. The first
And
Tuesday would also be the 7th.
October.
And then October 1, yes. Yeah, it would be October 6.
Well, all three of those need to be changed back to the first Tuesday of the month.
Commissioner, can you give me those dates again, please?
Sure, well, hold on. I haven't got to my second question yet. Maybe that may change again. But my first one is April, July, and October. The dates are all wrong. They're showing up as a Thursday. They need to be the first Tuesday. My second question is, I have a personal conflict in the January date, June, and October. So I'd request we change those dates, January, June, and October.
January, June, and October, you said?
October, yes.
That's January 6th, you say, right?
January 6th being next meeting, the June meeting, and the October meeting.
So then what do you recommend in the 13th?
I'm open to discussion with the commission, whatever dates people are available if they know at this point.
I have no problem moving.
Sorry, what was the date for January you picked?
January currently is the 6th. I'm
Right.
fine with moving to the second week and put it the 13th if everyone else is.
I don't have a problem with that. Is there anyone that has an issue with January 13?
No, me neither.
Okay, could we please update the January meeting for the 13th?
Your other one, sir?
June as well, same thing I'm fine with from the 2nd. It currently sits to the 9th.
I have no problem with that.
No, it's fine,
Yeah, it's
fine
fine.
by me.
So June is going from the 2nd to the 9th?
That's
Yes.
fine. Everyone's good with that?
And October, moving from the 6th to the 13th.
October.
It's the first. Oh, no. right.
Well, it's
Should be the
incorrectly in there as October 1. So that would also be October 13.
I have no problem with that.
It's fine by me. Anyone else have everyone okay with that?
Just want to thank you because working a 24-hour schedule, I don't get off at 5 o'clock. I was there for 24 hours. So you guys saved me using personal vacation time like I did this year.
Oh, that's good. I have no problem with that.
Well, good. July 2nd. So wait, July, okay. And looking back to those three, the other 2 months that you mentioned, April would be moved to the 7th and July would also be moved to the 7th.
Then you have January the 13th, June the 9th,
Correct.
and October 13th?
I'm gonna go 1 month at a time here. Okay.
Good catch, Commissioner.
All right, that's it. All right, any other questions on the 2026 schedule? Going once, going twice. Okay.
Need to move it as, somebody needs to move it as amended.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the resolution as amended?
Make a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that was 9F. The last one that we pulled was 9J. And that's not a resolution.
Minutes.
Okay. So it's what was previously marked as item 9J is the regular commission meeting minutes for October 7, 2025. Commissioner Amsler?
I just had a comment. So, Pamela, I sent you a note that I couldn't find the video, and that's for Jay, right?
I'm sorry, Jay? Yes,
Yes.
Jay, correct. Yep.
That I couldn't find the video for October. I had some notes that I wanted to verify with it. I couldn't find it. So if you can provide me that video, I'd appreciate it. I would ask to defer the October 7th for the next meeting until I do. And the other thing is, there's a section that's missing the motion that I made to defer the items from that meeting. But if it's okay with everybody, I would just ask to defer it until the next meeting.
It's fine with me.
I have no problem.
Thank you.
Consensus. Okay, so that's consensus to defer the item 9J to the next meeting.
And if you can, please send me that link when you find it. Thank you.
All right. That was the final items. That was the last of the items that were pulled from consent. So we move on to our new business, the first of which is the discussion on legal representation of claims. Let me just get it open. All right, so Mr. Manager, do you want to introduce the discussion item for us?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, as the last meeting, there was an item on the agenda that approval for some legal fees that were accumulated for an ethics complaint, and as a result of that complaint, some private representation was sought, and there was a discussion about when to use the city's insurance provider, or when to use when the person that is the subject of the complaint could use private attorney. So I think there was agreement that an item should be placed on the next agenda in December to discuss this further. I think we have some you asked also that I would invite our representative from our insurance provider be able to attend, and I think they're on the Zoom link, so to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thanks, Hal. Do we have someone on Zoom with us to discuss this item?
We do, yes. My name is Jen Martin. I'm the Executive Vice President for Public Risk Underwriters of Florida. We are the administrator for Preferred Governmental Insurance Trust. So we do your property, your liability, and your workers' comp insurance. On the call, we also have Monica Coleman and Christine Barnett. They are both claims supervisors with PGCS. That's the claims TPA. And then we also have your insurance agent, Bill Wilson, in attendance as well. So we are happy to answer any questions, or we can kind of give you guys an idea of how the process should work in terms of reporting the claims to us, really whatever you guys would like to discuss.
What? I'm sorry. What? Could you just say your name one more time for us? Hello?
Maybe in the.
Can you hear us?
Hear me? Yeah, sorry, my headset just went in and out. Can you hear? Did you hear what I said?
Jen? Oh, Jen. Okay, thank you. So Jen, right?
Yes.
Sorry about that, Jen. I had a hard time hearing. So I appreciate all of you being here with us this evening to talk about the item. I think, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the entire commission, but I think the question that we were seeking to have answered, or at least discussed and clarified, was when it comes to claims, either be them ethics complaints, litigation claims, that are made against one village commission members or constitutional officers or employees. Not really what is the process, but we had a question, at least during our last meeting's discussion, about the timing of the process of when these claims are presented to our carriers, what the process looks like for you and what the timing looks like for you, because as we've heard, some of these types of claims, specifically ethics commission claims, tend to move very quickly. And if there's any delay, intended or unintended, on behalf of the carrier, that it really puts those that are the subject of the complaints at a disadvantage to utilizing our carrier that's meant to cover these types of losses. So can you just maybe provide us a little bit of, pull back the curtain a little bit and provide us a little information on how that works and what the expected timelines are from making a claim to having counsel appointed?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, just can I add something? I do have questions on the process as well.
Right.
I was going to suggest, if you are okay with that, if she can walk us through what the process is on a regular basis. One of the questions that was brought up on the last meeting, I think it was Commissioner Gonzalez, was, whether it was the attorney that reached out, and it was late because we had that in contract, but we didn't know. So who's responsible for risk management? Who's responsible for us starting the process? Who's responsible for kicking it off? I just want to understand that from zero, on. If you can just walk us through that process, and then I have the same questions as you brought up.
Just jumped ahead a little bit.
Sure,
So Jen,
yeah.
did you go ahead? Thank you.
We got that. Yeah, we'll go ahead and just kind of talk a little bit about the process and essentially the way it works. So you all are covered parties under the form. So when things come through, like ethics complaints or any sort of allegations, any sort of formal complaint, those need to be reported to us as the carrier pretty much immediately. As you said, these claims can move very quickly, particularly on the ethics side. So we want to be on notice of those pretty much as soon as you guys get them. Now, how you guys decide who from the city reports that to us is really an internal process.
Got it.
Usually that comes through risk management. If you don't have a specific risk manager, that may be your city manager. It could be your HR manager. We know that at small cities, you guys wear many hats many times, but you should have a party who is responsible for reporting claims. So if you get one directly and it doesn't go to the city, you need to report that to that person and make sure it's reported to PGCS. So we have multiple ways to report a claim, which I'm not going to get into all of that, but essentially, once they report a claim, we immediately send it for coverage review. If it is a rush turnaround, generally speaking, we will go ahead and we will assign counsel immediately while we're waiting on coverage review to go ahead and get started, because generally speaking, we can kind of know what's going to fall within and outside of coverage. So we want to make sure we get a jump on the process and start handling it as quickly as possible. That's kind of where Monica Coleman and her team come in. And Monica, I'll let you kind of jump in and you can talk about sort of more of a specific timeline as to what their expectation should be when they hear back on coverage and how counsel gets assigned.
Sure. Thank you, Jen. My name is Monica Coleman, and I'm a liability claims supervisor at Preferred Governmental Claims. We are the claims administrator for the trust claims. And so as a member of the trust, we handle your claims for you. And as Jen said, we can get into the details. And certainly if you don't currently have a person who handles your claims, that is the person that's responsible for supplying those reports to PGCS, we can set up a session with that person to train them how to go through the mechanics of claim reporting. But basically, somebody needs to be the point person, or you can have a couple of point people, but everyone in your organization needs to know who they need to talk to if they have a claim, because getting them reported as quickly as possible, and this is regardless of the claim type, some have bigger penalties than others, like workers' compensation. But obviously, we want to make sure that if you're owed a defense and if a response is due somewhere, that it gets taken care of as quickly as possible. So we're going to look at those. We don't expect you to figure out if you have coverage. That's for us to do. So send it to us. We'll review the coverage and we'll get you a response, certainly on the duty to defend as quickly as possible. And then we'll follow that up with a written letter that lets you know exactly what we see in terms of what might not be covered. So in the arena of an ethics complaint, as long as it's something that they're complaining about that the person did as part of their work for the village, generally that's going to draw a defense. And so we can look at those and pretty quickly tell you this is going to have a duty to defend it or not, which means we're going to assign defense counsel on your behalf. Those can turn around pretty quickly, a few days. Usually we can jump on them faster than the ethics process, assuming that your elected officials turn them over to us quickly. If somebody sits on them for whatever reason, it's going to create more issue down the line. So don't be shy, send them over. There's isn't much we haven't seen. Just send them over to us. We'll take care of it. An adjuster will be assigned. Our senior adjusters and our level 2 adjusters are very experienced. All we do is muni in Florida. We've all seen these kinds of claims. We have a really experienced team that can jump on them, get the coverage determination made, and get covered and get counsel assigned for you to get them where they need to be. And then for ethics complaints, that process is going to be dictated by the ethics commission that it got sent to, whether it's the local Miami-Dade or whether it's the Florida Commission on Ethics. And then they're going to go through their process. If there's an adverse finding, that could be where your coverage issue comes in. Typically, we're not going to, if there's a fine against the individual for acting improperly, typically that the fine isn't going to be covered, but the defense is. And so the individual doesn't have to come out of pocket for the defense. If we're covering it, we're going to pay those bills directly to the attorneys.
And that's where we're a little bit different from your prior carrier. So there may have been a little bit of confusion because I think your prior carrier does it more on a reimbursement basis. Like if you had an ethics complaint, you had to essentially defend it yourself. And once it was completed, you could submit that for reimbursement. We don't do that. It draws a duty to defend. We will assign counsel. We will get that taken care of. We have a panel of attorneys that we use who specialize in these types of cases. We have several that are in your area specifically, and we can provide it's already been provided to you, but certainly we can send it to everybody. You guys have the right to choose anybody who's on that panel. We do the panel because we know that they're experts not only in the specific arena in which we're dealing with, but they understand the form and they have agreed upon rates. If there are specific requests for attorneys who are maybe not on our panel, we will consider those on a one-off basis. We just need to receive them in writing. We need to kind of vet the firm and understand why there's a need for outside panel. But we can consider those on a case-by-case basis. Do you guys have any questions on any of that?
I guess my first question, going back to process, was who's that appointed person here? And I'm looking at the manager and the attorney. So who initiates the contact? I mean, the experience we just went through. We got to it a bit late. There was expenses that we just had to cover from the village's pocket instead of going through this process. So I want to understand in the future what's the process where is it defined?
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could. So with these ethics complaints that come in, as the village attorney will tell you, they're confidential, and you're not really supposed to, you're limited to who you could talk to about it. So when they had initially came in, I felt comfortable that you, as elected officials, were talking to your village attorney for advice on how to proceed. Um, um, I'm not opposed to, and then the employees were talking to me also and reaching out to me, and I had referred them to the village attorney because of the confidentiality of uh, these complaints. But in the future, if you want me to handle them, I'm certainly will handle them.
So can I ask very quickly on that point? From the legal perspective, Brad, I mean, the village can designate whomever they wish for this type of role, correct?
Yes. I mean, you don't have a risk manager, you don't have an HR manager. So
Right.
quite frankly, you all need to pick somebody that's one or two people designated to do it. I mean, look, without getting into the total discussions, the breakdown on there's really two issues. So the initial breakdown that Commissioner Gonzalez spoke about in the last meeting with regards to the bill that was approved for payment for private counsel is different than the other issues. That was an issue that neither the manager and I are risk managers. I won't speak for the manager about his experience in risk management. I don't have the experience as a risk manager. When your claim came in, we had a discussion, and quite frankly, didn't realize that the professional liability policy would cover an ethics complaint. And it wasn't until after that claim, when it was dealing with a claim that was filed from another commissioner, that we had a discussion, and I examined the policy and made a phone call, spoke with Bill Wilson, and there was a determination that the claim could be presented to the carrier. We filed that claim with the carrier, and what the issue became then, and I think that's part of what needs to be addressed by the representatives from the carrier, is by the time the attorney was appointed and then explained what the process was or what they were being retained for, the Ethics Commission had already made a determination with regards to probable cause. And from the point, having handled these complaints before for clients, it is very important as part of the proper representation to be able to communicate with the advocates for these ethics commissions upon the filing, before the probable cause determination is, and provide input and information on behalf of your client, because otherwise what's happening is the commission advocates that are examining these complaints are examining the complaints for probable cause based solely on the complainant's allegations with no background whatsoever.
Right.
So that was kind of the breakdown. So the initial breakdown was that, quite frankly, with the initial complaint, didn't realize that fell under the professional liability coverage. And then once we did, with the second complaint or the second request for some type of coverage, was when we filed it, it was somewhat delayed in obtaining counsel.
So two quick questions, one for Brad and one a little bit different for our coverage folks that are joining us via Zoom. To address very quickly, the privilege that the commissioners individually hold with the village attorney, does the attorney-client privilege attach when we individually have discussions with you about, let's just say, about an ethics complaint?
The simple answer to that is yes, it does. There are potential issues, I don't know if you want me to go this far into it, but there's potential conflict issues that may or may not arise. But if a commissioner reaches out to me and shares the fact that they're the subject of a complaint, that's not a violation of either the state law or the county law with regards to confidentiality, because that commissioner is reaching out for counsel, and the conversations with regards to that complaint are privileged.
So that answers the first question. If, because trying to get us to a solution here, if we were to say, we as a village wish to designate our village attorney as the de facto risk manager, so in the event a commissioner has a complaint or a lawsuit or whatever filed against them for whatever they're doing in their official capacity, they can reach out to the attorney to advise them that they've been served with whatever proceeding, and that confidentiality issue, because as the manager mentioned, I'm certainly sensitive to that confidentiality and privilege, that privilege would be covered if I was to reach out to the village attorney and say, hey, this happened, and then the village attorney makes a recommendation to me, well, it needs to be reported to the carrier.
Yes, so
If we were to so choose to go in that direction to say the village attorney will act in that capacity, I just want to make sure that discussion, that basically that notice would be privileged. So
it is, that would not violate any of the confidentiality privileges under state law or county law.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And for our coverage folks, Jen and whomever is best suited to answer this question, I don't know if we've answered all of your questions, Commissioner, but
Yes, you just did with this. It was the process one, yeah.
okay. So this kind of comes back now to the second point, or the second point Commissioner Ansler is making, but the first point that I raised is this timing issue. And we've heard it again now from the attorney, where the delta for us is there's a delay. And, I've worked in insurance litigation quite a bit, so I do understand how sometimes, these things get cleared and how they have to go through certain people. And, there is a delay. And as we all understand now, expediency is very important when it comes to things like ethics complaints. And I know, who was it? I think Monica, I think you maybe had mentioned something the effect of, a potential event being reported to the carrier evaluates for coverage, issues would likely, or maybe always, issues a written letter of opinion on whether coverage is cleared. Those things all take time. So is there any recommendation from your side about how the village could kind of resolve this kind of situation that we find ourselves in, on how to handle complaints that are potentially made against commissioners?
I think the most important point is to get them into our hands as quickly as possible. So if you want to turn them over to the city attorney and he'll send them to us, you can do that via email. We can get them set up within a day. And we can prioritize looking at those to make at least a preliminary coverage determination on the duty to defend. We can do that in a couple of days. So if we get them right away, we should be able to get that done relatively quickly. Though especially with the local ones, the local agencies are going to move typically faster than Tallahassee with the Florida Commission on Ethics. So it's really important that we get those as quickly as possible, because they will act faster. But typically we can turn that decision around in less than a week. You might not have the fully, vetted coverage letter, but you will at least have defense counsel assigned if there's a duty to defend there.
So just, I don't want to hold you to the representations that you're making now. I understand that everything's kind of a case by case basis, but from what I'm hearing is, it sounds like if let's say I get one of these on a Wednesday, and on a Thursday we get it to the attorney and get it up to you folks, you would anticipate within approximately a week time that there would be a determination of coverage, and if coverage is cleared, that counsel would be assigned. And that's again about approximately 7-day time period, correct?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable to at least have defense counsel assigned. You're not going to have the written letter at that point usually. That's going to follow, but at least the ability to get counsel assigned and get them working the case, I think a week, give or take, is reasonable. If there's a significant coverage issue about whether or not they're doing city business, that might be a different issue. But if it's one where, somebody's saying, they are using their position for personal gain, or the typical ones that we see, those generally are going to draw a duty to defend. There's some nexus between the complaint that's being made and the elected or appointed official's position, and their official duties. Typically, those are going to draw a duty to defend.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. So I think for the purpose of the commission, I see this as a bit of a two-step process. I mean, first we have to either ask the manager to make a determination as to who he feels would be best to serve in this position of, again, de facto risk management, because I don't think it would be hiring a full risk management department. So I use the term de facto. And then the second part of it is we've now heard, straight from the mouths of our carrier what their process looks like. And it's, I mean, I look at it as, certainly open to any other opinions that commissioners have, is that this is kind of, you assume the risk and report it to the carrier, or you assume the risk of hiring somebody to get somebody on it immediately and then incurring the costs individually.
And that was going to be my next follow-up question to the process. So what happens in each circumstance? So is there a certain amount the insurance takes care for in a yearly basis? So say all 5 of us get served with something, and then we all go through the process and you provide representation. Is there a cap, a yearly cap?
There is, if it's a non-monetary type of claim, there's an annual cap of $100,000 for legal costs.
So up to $100,000 to cover everything for the year. Let me ask, is that the information available? Maybe you don't have it at hand, but something to look into. At December of this year, how much has that been used?
I do not have that information offhand. We'd have to pull all the claims and go through it.
Okay. So that would be something I would want to know. I remember there was a claim that came forward. I think it was a former employee at the beginning of the year. I'm trying to
You have to
understand.
understand it's policy year 2, which starts on October 1st.
Okay, so that's the other thing. So October 1st.
Yeah, it runs
And
into
then-
fiscal year.
Got it. And then what happens at that time, right? I mean, yours was $14,000 for one claim. It's 5 of us here. And
That was actually going to be my question, is the $100,000 limit, is that per individual or is that aggregate?
That's an aggregate limit.
Okay.
And if there's no conflicts, we would be able to assign the same counsel for each of you. Now, if for some reason there are conflicts, then we would obviously assign separate counsel.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's still, I mean, this is the policy, and the policy, if we were to increase the limits, obviously we have an increase in cost on premiums, but, I mean, if historically speaking, if we've never really even approached that limit, doesn't seem like there's much of a reason to have a discussion about increasing it. But I mean, this is very informative and it's informational for us, because we all need to the commission needs to make the determination on who we're going to designate to kind of serve in that role, and then how we're going to resolve this gray area that we have in timing.
So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
No,
I
go
would
ahead.
like just, this is kind of the first that we're hearing of a timeline issue on our side from a claims handling perspective. So that hasn't been raised to any of the adjusters, the supervisors, myself, the agent. So this is kind of the first we're hearing that there was an issue with our side of the house in terms of the timeline. I would love if somebody could send me which claim we're talking about so that I can go through it and figure out what happened, if there was a breakdown, if that was on our side. We certainly, we owe a defense. Like we said, we do this for 365 local governments in the state of Florida. We do these claims all the time. We pride ourselves on the claim service that we provide. That is what you guys are paying your premiums for, right? Without that, you're just getting a piece of paper. So it's very important to us that you're getting the service level that we have agreed to provide. So I would love the opportunity to dig into where the breakdown was and make sure that if it is on our side, that is not happening again. You guys should have defense for these types of claims, and you should feel confident in that and our ability to provide that for you and the experts that we bring to the table in terms of our defense team. And that's one of the benefits of being a preferred member.
I understand that. I think from our perspective is understanding, generally speaking, what the timelines look like from your end on when claims are reported, what the turnaround is in clearing coverage, and after coverage has been cleared, when counsel is assigned, that allows them to get up to speed quickly enough to work with the attorney assigned by the Commission on Ethics just to make sure that, again, as the attorney mentioned, the commission isn't getting to a decision posture without having the benefit of having heard from representation of the individual, the commissioner. So
Sure,
I
and-
think
Great.
understanding again from your perspective what that timeline looks like to give us some peace of mind of how it should work in a normal scenario where, because look, I think, everyone on this side would probably agree that there was a bit of a breakdown in our procedure. So that needs to be corrected. And we're working on both ends of how to correct our procedure to make sure this doesn't happen again, and understanding from the carrier's perspective, if things go as they should, is there going to be a timeliness issue?
There should not be on our end.
Right. So I
Yeah.
guess what I'm trying to get at
Mhm.
is looking back, I don't know how beneficial it is, because I think we acknowledge that, there was a bit of delay and that very likely fed into the delay. that-
Sure, it's just helpful for us on our end. If there was some sort of breakdown, we want to know where it was so that we can
Sure.
make sure that doesn't happen again.
Understood. Okay.
So I'd be happy to look into it further if you want to send me any details, and see what we can come up with.
Absolutely. And we can do additional training once you decide internally who you want to have do it. We have an entire PowerPoint presentation we can do for you on, we call it Claims 101 on how to report claims, basic claims information. So especially if you have someone who's not a risk manager by trade, that is going to be filling that role for you, we can get them to a position where they can do that for you effectively without, undergoing, significant training as a risk manager.
Yeah, and that's true, not just on liability, but on the comp side as well. Comp is probably where you may have more claims, or more frequency. We can do training on that, and we can make it on the departmental supervisors to be the responsible parties who report work comp claims. However you guys want to handle it, we're here to work with you. And we're happy to train and it makes everybody's life easier if we all understand who the points of contact are and how things are supposed to function. So we're more than happy to meet with you guys and help in that regard.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
So, I want to get us to where we need to go. I'm having heard from the carrier on what the process and the timing should look like, when all things go as planned. That decision to be able to assign counsel to any of the commissioners or any of the village employees or charter officers or whomever is subject to one of these things. I want to be able for the village to minimize its risk and exposure while also making sure that the village is helping those that are going through this type of thing. So,
Sure. The
um,
other thing I would add
Uh-huh.
would be, it sounds like, and again, this is kind of the first we're hearing this, but it sounds like coverage counsel was selected elsewhere before the claim was reported and possibly paid. Generally speaking, we don't do reimbursement in that way, but I'm
Right.
willing to consider it if you guys send me the information as to what happened, what it was, who it was assigned to, the bills, that type of thing. We could consider that on a one-off basis. Just understand that you guys weren't familiar with the process. So certainly happy to do that. If somebody, city manager, whoever would be willing to send that information our way, we will definitely be happy to evaluate.
Well, that would be very helpful. And, I certainly appreciate the offer. I think that just having looked over at the manager and having nodded his approval, I think that the village will submit for your consideration what happened in this most recent issue here. So that would be helpful. I think that we have as a commission, we have a decision to make on how we want to move forward. So I think, again, I want us to make some progress. We still have a discussion item left. Are there any other questions for our claims professionals that are with us by Zoom? No? I'm monopolizing the time.
Thank you all.
Okay, well, I don't think we have anything else, unless, Commissioner, Brad, Mr. Manager, is there anything else? Okay. So I think that,
We know exactly what they cover and what they don't. I mean,
That's the next.
need to have a written policy because, you know, I had an ethics complaint against me that I would have been covered and I wouldn't have been covered.
I think,
I would have to go on out and hire a private attorney just like you did. And
Right.
I think that we need to have a policy of
Yes.
exactly what this insurance company covers.
well, I think now that we have an understanding that when these things come to us, they immediately have to go to the carrier, because then the carrier will have to, I mean, they review these, right? They review these on a case-by-case basis and make a decision as to coverage as to whether, it's really up to them, whether there is, I mean, within the policy language, there will be what they cover, but then of course it's going to be up to them to review and decide. That's why it's the timeliness of the reporting of this stuff is so important, to put them on notice immediately so that they can start looking at it right away, clear coverage quickly, and then get counsel assigned. Right, the policy would outline that. Yeah. Yeah. So,
That's what I was gonna say. I think that's more on us, not, and not in this case with the company, but for me, I'm looking for that. Where's the policy that says who does what, what's the time around? That's sort of a, process in place that we can follow.
so maybe,
Yeah.
Al, oh, sorry, was that Jen?
Sorry, I do have one other thing I could offer. So we have a loss control team. Your loss control professional is Chris Kettleson, and he can help you guys put in place any policies or procedures that you may need from a risk management perspective. He would love to meet with you guys and talk about any ways that he can help you do that. We actually have an online tool that will help you build procedure manuals for things like this or any other employment type of practice. So there's a ton of resources that are available for you. They're all free. They're all included as part of your coverage. And I can have him reach out to the city manager and try to set something up, as soon as possible or for the new year so that we can help you guys get an alignment on the things that you need to.
So maybe that's where we start then. Maybe, Al, what we can have you do is connect with Chris. Was that his name?
Yeah, Chris Kettleson. Yep,
So
I'll
get
have him
to-
reach out to Al.
Great. So Chris will reach out to talk about kind of some procedures on risk management. And then maybe when we have the benefit of what the carrier is telling us from a risk management standpoint, maybe from there, we get a recommendation on who would be best served to be in the position of the risk manager. But maybe that's a good starting point. And I know our vice mayor had asked about a copy of the policy about coverages. Maybe we can circulate a copy of the policy for the benefit of the commission to look at it. I guess that's what I would propose as our next step, to have the carriers, Chris with the carrier, work with the manager to start developing those procedures, and then we make a determination as to who would serve in the role as the risk manager from there, once we better understand what it should look like.
So we are waiting as a next step to have something as a discussion item with that process, like a proposal from the manager.
I think it would be a discussion item, right? I mean, this is something we'd be potentially be adopting, I guess, if it's formalized by resolution, as a risk management procedure. Brad?
You can do that, adopt it as a policy, you do it by resolution or, so yes.
Okay. Well, that,
The only thing to consider when it comes to the specifics of an ethics complaint,
Mhm.
and you're talking about the confidentiality,
right.
That confidentiality would only apply if it was a subject of the complaint to an attorney. So that in other words, if let's just use a member of the commission goes to the manager and reports a complaint, the complaint itself you can do, but if there's any discussion about it, there's potential issues with the manager. In other words, the manager's not providing counsel. So all he could do is say, here's the complaint. If that's the route you all decide to do,
Mm.
you would provide him the complaint. He would file the complaint as a liability claim.
Right.
Policy should, I would suggest, state that there's no conversation because there's no privileged communication between that individual and the manager.
You might be volunteering the position in which you currently serve.
Reason why I'm bringing that up, because I've lived this before.
Yeah.
Issues arise with that type of situation.
Okay. Well, I think the starting point again would be for the carrier to connect with Al and talk about what the procedures should look like, and then the commission will have to make a determination well, I don't know, that might be in Al's management purview to make a designation.
Get with Al and discuss.
Okay. I think that's fine. Any other questions or discussion points on the item? No? Okay. All right, so that was A. So our last item was the item that we approved on the amended agenda, Commissioner Amsler, which was your discussion item, I believe, on the process for the interviews of the village attorney candidates. Is that right?
All right.
Left. Whoops.
That's what I was trying to do. Let me find it.
May I make a suggestion based on a comment of one of the residents? I think this is a very important topic. And perhaps after we can give a brief, explanation of what it is and let the residents comment if they wish to.
It's acceptable to me. Is that all right, Commissioner?
Right.
All right, so Commissioner, maybe introduce the item and then we'll open public comment on the item.
All right. So I'm going to read the item. Our village attorney plays a big role in helping Biscayne Park run smoothly and legally. Under our charter, the attorney advises the commission and staff, reviews our ordinances and contracts, represents us legal matters, and helps make sure we follow the law. Because this role is so important and essential, it is important and essential that we choose the right attorney. So as a background here, during the discussions for the budget, we had an increased request from our current attorney from $100,000 to $175,000. The commission ultimately approved $137,500 as a placeholder where the negotiations with the firm continued. And at the same time, the commission asked the manager to reach out to experienced municipal law firms so we could compare options and understand the market. This item proposes two things. One is to see our current village attorney firm as one of the firms we're going to evaluate. And the second is to understand if the commission is considering using a scorecard as to how we're going to fairly compare all of the candidates in order to choose. So I don't think we have ever talked about scorecard. I think it's important to have that conversation. And in terms of the village attorney, the current manager received resumes from firms specialized in municipal law, all willing to work for $125,000, which matches the rate that the majority of the commission had asked for. So there was a negotiation between $137,500 to $125,000. Please feel free, anybody, if I'm misspeaking at any point, this is my recollection of the items. So at $125,000, which matches what the majority wanted. Our current attorney had also agreed to the same amount. So it seems appropriate that we include them in the evaluation process because at the end of the day, they all confirmed they would do the job for $125,000. It's important to know that there have been no performance concerns raised or at least openly discussed. And the purpose of exploring other firms was simply to ensure that we were doing due diligence when it comes to price points and references. One of the questions I had was, why not 115? Why not 110? I don't know. We could sort of jump from 137 to 125 and said we're fine. So I would like to see what the current law firm has to say about in comparison with the rest. The second point about the scorecard was to keep the selection process transparent and fair. All firms, including our current attorney, should be evaluated using the same standards. Otherwise, I wasn't sure how we're going to be doing this. And then I proposed some scorecard ideas, municipal law experience, understanding of the charter, day-to-day needs, responsiveness, and availability. So asking who is in charge from the firm, if they're on call 24/7, like how does that work? Litigation and risk management approach, which is what we just spoke about. And, again, seemed like it was not falling in anybody's lap. Including the history and outcomes, if they had any, communication styles and fit with the village, reference and past performance, Florida bar certification, etc. And supporting staff if they have any as secondary attorneys, paralegals, as well as the quality of the presentation. So that was the item I wanted to propose. We consider the current law firm since in the negotiations, they'd also agreed to 125, and they can be part of the presentations we're going to have on December 8th. And B, the proposal for the commission is that we have a scorecard, so we're all identifying potential firms on the same basis.
All right.
Commissioner Amsler,
Yeah.
I don't know if you gave all of this out to the other commissioners, but I haven't gotten any of it.
That should be with the manager, because I passed it on the deadline.
Have on her agenda discussion item, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I have nothing about it, yeah.
That, I requested that it be shared with everybody through email. You should have received it by email. You can ask the manager in that case. You don't have a computer. I don't have one printed. Yeah.
I have it, Vice Mayor, if you want to look at it. Yes.
Yeah.
So, to address the point that we heard during public comment, I'll open, before the commission discussions, I'll open this item for public comment. Same rules will apply as applied earlier in the meeting. So is there anyone in the log cabin or on Zoom that wishes to provide public comment on the discussion item before we move forward?
Bob Anderson, 11905 Northeast 11th Place. When I'm hearing a scorecard, hopefully you're talking about an evaluation sheet. And, that should have been brought up a while back, because to go ahead and write up an evaluation sheet that all the commission likes and agrees with, it's not going to happen at this meeting. So I don't know when you're planning to be doing it. This is something that maybe the next time around something like this comes up, it will already be in place. Otherwise, I think you're just wasting time.
Thank you.
Janie Anderson, 11905 Northeast 11th Place. As well-intentioned as the scorecard sounds, having watched 40-some years worth of village attorney interviews, one of the things that always stood out to me is the...
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
One of the things that always stood out to me was the intangibles. Oh,
Is that what? I'm sorry?
1 through 10 items that you can actually attach a number to if you so choose. But far beyond that, I mean, you are talking about the consummate professional, with the exception of the manager, the highest level for our village. There's going to be so much that you cannot put a number on. And my concern, when we start with numbers, we get hung up on numbers. That doesn't serve anyone well. And unfortunately, what we're seeing, Dan, I'm guessing you're saying you don't have any of the backup. I thought you guys had deadlines and you had to meet the deadline to be on the agenda so that everybody would have the backup and residents would have the backup. I don't quite understand.
Can I reply to the comment?
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate you saying that, because that we do have, we have a procedure in place that requires the commission submit items 10 days prior to the commission meeting. I did submit my items within my deadline. They were not included. So you can request those items to the manager. You can ask the clerk for public records, so you can go through that. They weren't put in the agenda by the manager's decision, saying it was late. It's mistaken. It was a day earlier. Otherwise, you would have had the opportunity to see them. Unfortunately, you didn't, but that would have been nice to hear your feedback with the item at hand. Yes. So that's my proposal to you guys. I hear you.
So just taking the recommendations of the request one by one. The first being that you're asking that we evaluate the current firm, or that the current firm, just say one more time for me. Sorry, I don't think I picked up on it. That they be included in the evaluation, or that they.
So for me, first off, if we went ahead and started a negotiation with the firm, and we went from 175 to 137.5, and from 137.5, we have already approached firms asking if they would do it for 125, and some firms said yes. At that point, we came back to the attorney and said, and I asked the question, would you do it for 125? The answer was yes. So we're all in the same field of different law firms, including ours. They're willing to do this for 125. At some point, the entire commission here was okay with 125 from our village attorney moving forward. That was set. I feel fine. I would move forward if it was a 125. I think Commissioner Huntington was a 130 at some point. There was a 137.5 we put in the budget. And then it went back to, let's see what else is there, which is what we need to do. I agree with that and I brought that up with the building department. I agree with any vendor that you have at hand. There is an opportunity to revise the contract. If something's not working, it has to be brought forward, and we have to have the discussion. So I think, again, there was some issues brought up. We discussed and things were moving along, and then the money hit. The money was the issue. The money was resolved. It was 125, and we still are moving forward. So I understand how we're going to evaluate those firms that are going to be coming, right? And then on that perspective, we have our village attorney and firm who's worked with the village for several years, ready to continue. They said they're interested. They're now willing to just quit. They're here to continue to serve or receive any feedback. So I want to understand where that stands, whether it's part of the conversation to be had or not. You know, maybe the idea is that they don't need to be included for some reason, and that we are okay with that. And then everybody makes their own decision based on, I don't know.
Advice, Mayor.
We put out a thing to get 5 other people for 125,000. I believe that our present city attorney went down to the 125,000 because there was other people that were willing to do the 100.
Right.
And that's fair that he can do it, but we have other people that apply. I don't have a problem with evaluating. I truly believe we have to evaluate the present city attorney on stuff that's done in the past. And I also want to evaluate the other ones. These people put in applications to come for a city manager. Now we can't just say, well, we don't want them now because our present attorney agreed to the 125,000. I think we have to do an evaluation on all of them and decide if we want to go forward, because there are things that are going to be coming up in the future that I think we need to think that we might need to have change.
So are you okay with the firm being part of the selection process on December 8th?
Yes, yes, I definitely, I want them to be part of it. Yes.
How does the rest of you feel?
The only reason, I mean, I'm absolutely perfectly fine with it. I'm glad they want to be part of it. But the last conversation that we had up here, we said they didn't have to, simply because we already know them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the only reason that they weren't included as far as part of the presentation.
Yeah.
But if they want to be, that's great. I'm fine with that.
And to that point, exactly, it was my second point of scorecard. So knowing that we have this firm and we have someone that's worked with the village for longer, obviously they're going to come with a different knowledge. What are we going to be asking and structuring the measurement among these firms? How are we going to evaluate these firms?
Go ahead. No. Sorry.
For me, I have no problem offering the invitation to our current firm if they would like to join in the group. I fully welcome their participation. If they don't, that's up to their choice. I didn't ever feel like we excluded them. I felt like if Brad would like to make a presentation, I will always say yes to that. That's one thing. Scorecard, that goes to, I would like to respond to Janie Anderson as well as this was an issue at the last meeting. And Commissioner, I understand that your item might be technically inside the deadline, but with 2 observed holidays during those 10 days, sending an item out at 11:59 on the 10th or 11th day right there, when it's a weekend and there's Thanksgiving, this should have been sent out well before. And I would have supported it, and I would have supported it if we had time, but I frankly don't think we have time. It's the meeting is the next Monday, and I concur with Janie Anderson. There are things that don't fit into scorecards you can't put a number on. So for me, I don't see a value in a scorecard. I probably won't, if the commission approves it, I probably won't be utilizing it. I will go off my interpretation of the attorneys. So.
Got it. Okay.
I agree with Ryan as far as the use of a scorecard. I'm going to go based on my conversations with all the attorneys independently, the research I've done on them personally and also their firms, as well as recommendations that I've been able to get from people that I know in the industry. So that's how I'll be evaluating everybody.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the same way. I've talked to all I have one more left at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. But I met with all of them, and it was just a lot of questions I didn't ask them because I just wanted to have on how. So I did my evaluation already, and that's how I did it with the city managers and all of that. I don't believe in scorecards because scorecards can be misleading.
Yeah.
But I think we need to possibly look at replacing the present firm, especially with the problems that I'm having with this one. And I'm one of 5 commissioners. So I think we need to have the evaluation with all these people. And they took time to come here. And, we have 2 of them here tonight. We have one that was here before for 2 meetings in a row. And to me, that's very, so I'm opening up that we should be able to interview all of them.
Yeah.
Have them give their presentations. Because I think it was you, Commissioner Amsler, you brought up one in reference to law firm, and if I'm misleading saying it, apologize, about some of these law firms might not know what a small village does. Something like that you said. And I think that's what we need to find out if these other law firms can handle that. And I've spoken to all of them, and they all know small city issues. So I think that we really need to look at it. Now, it's a possibility that this commission votes to keep the present city attorney. I hope it works out. But, I just have to do an evaluation myself.
I think I saw this interview process as being similar to how we've done it with managers in the past.
Yeah.
We have them here. We speak to them in advance, each of us. We have them here. We have an opportunity to ask them questions as a panel. And, then we get together and we I don't know if it's going to happen this way, but probably rank them, say this is who I would go with. These are the reasons why. I do like, I like the idea of having a uniform process such as you're proposing. I think it's a good idea because it helps give us a level playing field in that we're all evaluating on the same terms. The only problem I see with it here is that a lot of these kind of proposals is I don't think we're comparing apples to apples. If we say how responsive and available has our current firm
I
been.
was talking about the contract, like, are you, 24/7 available? Like,
I see what you're
that sort of thing, not obviously based on.
I see what you mean. I misinterpreted it, but I don't know how I can pre-rank a lot of categories without having experiences with that particular firm and individual. So I think it's just a hard at this part of the process. If we're reviewing, totally agree. But when we're evaluating folks that we haven't even had an opportunity to work with yet, I'm not sure how it's comparing the right, the same. It's how we're putting them on that level playing field. So I would see it as happening the same way that we've all done in the past is, we'll speak with each of the candidates. We'll have them here. We'll have an opportunity to talk to them. And then we'll all discuss, we'll discuss where we rank them, how we feel about each of them and which direction we'd like to go forward and why we feel that way specifically. I think that makes the most sense just because it's worked for us.
Yeah.
Is this type of process, I like it. I like how we've done it with manager evaluations in the past, because again, I think it all puts us in evaluating the same categories and the same elements. So I do like it for that, but interviewing, I think it's probably for a later time.
Oh, fair. Appreciate the feedback. So that's it. So we would have to ask then Bradley, I don't know if you're going to be part of the presentation, it's December 8th, and then how does it transfer to the deadlines to the timeframes that we have scheduled? So you would have to coordinate, I guess, with the manager to see when and how to move that around.
Discuss how we're about.
And then if you let me answer to Commissioner Huntington on the item, on the resolution.
Sure.
I appreciate your feedback in terms of what you think I should have done for the item, but we have laws in place for a reason. These policies happen when the entire commission vote for things to happen. This is not, I would prefer you to do a certain thing, a certain way. It's specifically not to me only. I think this is not the first time I talked about, setting precedent with me, specifically on procedures. So I'm very disappointed to hear that from a commissioner. You're here to make sure the laws are followed. You're here to make sure that we are fair and to see that the resolution asked for 10 days prior. There is a reason for that. And I told this to the manager, so I'm going to share with you. We all work here. We all have different time frames and schedules, and we all have commitments. We don't work for the village. So there is not a 9 to 6. There is not a Monday to Friday, and there's no holidays, literally. I would have loved to make sure that they go easier on the holidays. It wasn't my intention to make it harder in any way. Unfortunately, that's when I got to it, and it was a day prior to the deadline. So I do ask of you, as a commissioner sitting here, as a resident that voted for you, to please make sure that the resolutions are applied for everybody the same way. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback on the item.
So can I just say a couple things about the attorney since we're talking about it?
Yeah, of course.
So what I was thinking is that, by the way, on the 8th, I'm ready to make a selection, or whatever that selection is. That's another thing that we need to talk about, because I'm planning on making a motion that night. I don't want to continue to play this game and delay this thing.
I appreciate you bringing that up. That's actually a good.
Was
So
the
that's
question?
one, that's
Yep.
one thing that we can discuss.
Yep.
The other thing is, I was thinking, whatever selection we make, we do at least a minimum of 2, because at the end of the day, the first one is we're going to talk and we're going to try to negotiate with them. And we don't know, once the manager gets into a negotiation with whomever the person, the firm is, if that can go sideways. So I would suggest that we have at least 2. We pick the top 2 that we say, hey, look, these are the 2 that we would consider working with or whatever. That way, if there is a fallout with the first firm for whatever the reason in the process, then we don't have to have another special meeting and another discussion and bring people back. You know what I'm saying? So those are just 2 things that I just wanted to bring up.
So the idea is to pick that night, and then you would move in. Yeah, and you're saying you would move to negotiations with whatever firm we're with to close negotiations. So we probably have another discussion with contract and all of that. How we've done it with with the manager. Yeah.
I believe you all got some information too on some questions that I asked about the financial part and the commitment from each firm for a certain amount of time and whatnot. So I think that that's also part of the whole, negotiation.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that that's prudent, Art, for us to be prepared that evening. Even if someone here doesn't necessarily want to be prepared for that, you've now prepared them, prepared all of us to say, I'm advancing this on the evening of the 8th. I have no problem with that idea of saying this is our selection, and should things not work out, picks a backup, so to speak. I think that's fine. I don't have any issue with it. I'm open to any other ideas on how we proceed on the 8th, but I think that with the way we proceed is we spend the time with each of the candidates. We ask the question that we're going to ask, and then we move forward at the end of the interviews to the discussion portion, where you do as you mentioned. I think that makes the most sense. I'm open for any alternative views. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, I appreciate the time this evening. At this
Mayor?
point, yes,
So, just one thing before we finalize this
certainly.
agenda item. Since the village attorney will be present, making a presentation on December 8th, he had, I think that he originally was going to sit in during those meetings. He would be at the other applicants would be at a disadvantage for him to be sitting here during those entire presentations. So we were going to invoke the rule for everybody that they would have to be outside and not be present. So I'll, if it's okay with the commission, I'll bring in someone, an attorney to be here that night so that you will have some legal representation and some guidance if any issues come up that somebody that has no affiliation with any of the applicants, if that's okay.
What sort of questions would come up for representation that we would need another attorney for? What's the idea? Like what could,
Anything that, Commissioner, anything that you could, or anyone that here could raise during those presentations or any issues that you may have. So it's up to you. If you don't want to have legal representation during a commission meeting, that's up to you.
I don't see an issue with it. To have someone, an uninterested party, that can answer a question. I mean, we're going to be talking to attorneys about legal proceedings and opinions and processes. So having someone here that can answer a question, I think is probably fine. I don't know if the rest of the commission feels any differently.
yeah. That's a good question.
I'll be negotiating, yes, Commissioner.
That's fine. What's one more attorney?
Okay. Yeah, there's plenty of us. All right, everyone. Well, at this point, we're having nothing remaining and nothing rolling over. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.